Okay, let the game speak. Calling the meeting to order. We'll start with the public hearing. So if you guys can come down and
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Everybody else you met last time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't here last round.
Karen.
Yeah, Karen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so you haven't met everyone?
No.
Sean,
Hi, Maria.
nice to meet you.
Hi,
Maria.
Anna. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Nice to-
Carolyn. Hello.
And I'm Kathleen.
Right.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Is this the new badge?
Any improved drawings?
Yes.
Which isn't really a change from what was already submitted, it's just new information pertaining to the garage.
So, if we can
We'll
pass out those again, that'd be great.
those also.
Mhm. Oh,
I have all the photos. Oh, sorry, it's spread out across the tape line, Karen. Always have happy paper clips.
Oh, I,
Yeah.
I love the colored paper.
You and,
There, there's more than one copy.
okay.
Should I
Natalie
pass it down
Sanchez
to
always
John?
has
How many
copy
copies
paper.
do you have?
Right.
Oh, you have one.
I think
Oh, okay, this is mine.
that's
Okay.
it.
Good?
Okay, so, for the benefit of those who haven't been to any of our public hearings, and what we'll do is we'll hear a description from the applicants as far as what they're proposing to do. We will allow time for people to come up and take a look at the drawings and the application materials, and then we'll we'll take public comment. Once we close public comment, then we will have a discussion, and we'll see if the board members are ready to vote on the application. So with that, Karen, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone, my name's Karen Parks and I'm here tonight with Maria and Tony DeMeo, who are the property owners at 41 Garden Street. And we are proposing a one-story addition to their existing single-family, one-story residence. And the addition that we're proposing is to be set at the back of the property. So this is a site plan of the property with Garden Street at the bottom of the page and the existing dwelling toward the front of the lot. Our proposed addition, which is approximately 282 square feet, is located at the back of the house and extends 12 feet to the rear, and the extension north-south is approximately 24.5 feet. The pink highlighted area actually represents an existing covered patio with a roof structure, and this project is under a coordinated review with the Zoning Board of Appeals. We're also applying for an area variance for a variance to the allowable lot coverage. So in an effort to minimize that variance, part of our proposal will now be to remove the roof over the covered patio to do a sort of a trade. We'll still be required to apply for a variance, but we're hoping to minimize that, and so that's part of the trade-off. So the removal of that roof structure will also be under review by the Historic Review Board. So the building plans, again, this is a one-story brick ranch, built in the early 1960s. And, the existing plan is illustrated here. Again, our addition is at the back of the property, the back of the building with Garden Street at the bottom of the page. And the primary goal for this addition is to obtain additional accessible floor area on the first floor. We're proposing to add a second bathroom in the house. There's currently one. The second would be a fully accessible bathroom. And also just additional accessible floor area within the kitchen for first floor space. So the residence, again, it's a one-story brick structure with a hip roof construction. And we're proposing to basically continue that style of the house. The proposed addition will also have a solid brick veneer facade, and we'll continue the style of double hung windows, a 1/1 window style. And in the portion of the extension, which is visible to the street, will also have the existing shutters replicated for the one window that's being added facing the the southerly property line. So the extension, basically, if you're looking dead on at the building from Garden Street, you won't see the extension. It does not extend beyond the end of the house in either direction. You will see the addition if you're driving down Garden Street toward the building. The property is immediately adjacent to the Lady of Loretta Church parking lot, so there's an open view to the side of the property. And at that end of the building, the proposed extension extends 12 feet beyond the end of the structure. So the bulk of the addition is really viewed from the back of the property, which is visible from neighboring properties on Fair Street that back up against the property, but I don't believe it's really visible from any public way except potentially through those properties. And the back of the addition, again, is approximately 24 plus or minus feet. It's a little over 24 feet. And again, we're keeping it at the same height of the existing residence and continuing the hip roof construction. And to the north, where we do have an immediate neighbor, the actual extension extends 6 feet beyond the existing dwelling. So the addition is visible from the neighbor's property to the north. We have about a 6-foot extension, and we've tried to be cautious about the layout and design and have our windows facing the back of the property, so there aren't any additional windows facing the neighbor directly to the north. Okay, the garage structure is a detached one-car garage. The dimensions are approximately 25 feet by 14.5 feet. And it currently has a very slim extension of the existing roof that projects 8 feet off of the north end of the garage and is supported by 3-inch diameter steel pipe columns. So that actually constitutes building area when determining lot coverage, so we are proposing to remove that roof structure and supporting posts as a sort of trade-off on our floor area so we can minimize our lot coverage variance. In addition, we're proposing to replace the existing garage door with a new steel garage door. And I believe that is the extent of our application.
Okay, if you could, I guess, just leave the materials out over here. We'll take a 5-minute break. Whoever wants to look at the drawings and the images, please do, and we'll reconvene at 20 after.
I'm just looking to see, do you have any pictures of the garage door closed? I'm trying to see when I took a picture, it was closed today.
Set that I gave you today.
Can I look past it? I saw open ones. Oh, the ones we put in today.
Yeah.
The one.
Wait a minute. There we go. Oh, yeah, okay, thanks.
That's an existing garage door, we're proposing to replace it with steel. Yeah, it's not the ideal mounting apparatus. It'd take a winter.
Karen, the garage door glazing, is that gonna be clear?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. Is that correct? It's clear glass from the
Yes,
garage
yes.
door. And I did bring the brochure with us, so that copy I know is hard to read, but if you wanna look at the actual
I got it.
brochure.
Thanks.
And are you gonna do one of the solid colors or one of the wood colors?
Solid. Just planning on white, which is what's
Not one
there
of those
now.
textured ones.
No.
We don't care what color it is, but I just
Is
wanna
that what was
Texture.
No, it's not
It was
textured.
the- No,
No.
I mean, it might, the steel might have a little bit of a, it's not perfectly smooth, but
Yeah,
it's
it looks
not.
like
Right.
steel, it's not trying
Yeah.
to be.
But it's
fake
not like
wood.
this.
Yeah.
No.
With
No.
the extra texture. Sorry. No problem. Did we do seeker on this when we looked at it last week?
I don't know, I was the last to tell you about
I just
that.
wrote
I'm
mine.
pretty sure that we did.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yes, we did. Safe.
I guess we're close enough, so I
The
will,
neighbors are still looking at them.
huh?
The next door neighbors are still
Oh,
looking at them.
okay.
Were you finished, or did you need some more?
I guess the one thing which I'll ask Karen to discuss before we move into the public hearing portion, or the public comment, is in addition to the addition and the, you know, the changes in the back, you're also proposing to replace certain elements like windows and doors.
That's correct, I'm sorry, we're proposing to replace all of the existing windows, with new windows that will be replaced in full, frames and all, so they're not just replacement windows put in the existing frames. And those we're proposing to replace with Anderson 400 series, vinyl clad windows. And we're proposing to, well, in the addition, it will have a new back door, which is a vinyl, flush glazed door, 2/3 light, and the specs are in the package. And other than that, all of the existing exterior trim features will remain the same, and at the addition, we'll propose to match the existing soffit and gutters with what currently exists.
So no change to the openings?
No change to the openings, and we're also proposing to replace the roof throughout with a new 40-year fiberglass architectural shingle.
But the trim seems to be narrower on the drawing on A4 compared to what's existing in the house. The trim seems,
The trim, this is a close-up of one of the windows. The trim is approximately 2 3/4 inches, I believe.
and this trim is 1 3/4.
I'm sorry, I meant to say 1 3/4. It's not 2 3/4, but it is about 1 3/4 to 2
plus or
inches.
minus, yeah.
It varies from window to window. It's not exactly the same everywhere.
Okay, so, with that, I will open it to public comment. If you have a comment, please address it to the board. And please state your name. And,
Address for the public record.
going once, going twice. Okay.
You looked so
Public
eager when you came in.
The public comment section is over with that. With that, I'll open it up to the board members to see if they have any other questions concerning. And I see that you have the receipts.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have a question for as far as the coverage of the patio, is that, do you just need that, do you want us to approve that as an alternative, or are you definitely removing it?
We're definitely proposing to remove
Okay.
it. You know, obviously, if our variance is denied, we probably won't remove it because we'll be rethinking the project as a
Oh,
whole.
sure.
But to start with you, yes, we're looking to remove it.
Definitely.
So it sounds like the discussion that you all had in the last session was the value of keeping an addition on a single story, recognizing the single story character of the house. I feel like this is the removal of this portion is a really smart response to that. I mean, I went down and looked today and it looks like it's an addition out the side anyway.
It's just a shed roof.
Yes,
It's
just a shed
obviously
roof sitting on-
later, yeah.
So that seems like a smart compromise if the zoning board is open to it. I think this house is a gem in the village. I love this house. We don't have a lot of mid-century single-story houses in the village, and it's intact and it's wonderful. And I think that your proposed addition on the back is very sensitive to the original design.
Yeah, I think it's actually a very modest way of expanding this house without destroying the integrity of it. And, I mean, we actually do have more mid-century houses, but so many of them.
Not in this part, I should say.
Well, no,
Yeah, that's
actually,
Garden
on
Church
Fair,
and a
on
bunch.
Fair Street, there's like a whole run of them, and then there's a couple on Church, and there's actually a couple on Garden Street, but they're almost like infill houses that were built, most of them are in the 1950s,
yeah.
this is the 1960s. As a matter of fact, but in terms of intactness,
Exactly.
and having been like a well-designed building in the first place, you know, this one and the big house on Wall Street behind St. Mary's Church,
Mhm.
are, you know, are the two gems of that era in the district. certainly there are other gems outside of the district, but these two in the district are certainly ones that you would want to preserve as much as possible and not mess with them too much to make them look weird. And this just is a very sensitive, way of dealing with it.
Or make them something they're not.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not making it colonial or something, you know, or trying to jazz it up with Victorianism or something.
I had two questions that you may have covered last time, if that's okay. So the drawing shows the original front door and you've got a storm. Is the storm coming off? Or is it just not represented in the drawing?
No, the storm is staying on. Sorry, that's important.
I love the front door. I'm glad that door is staying. And then the other question I had was about the back door, which is, you're not going to see, from a public right of way, but I'm just throwing this out as a question. I was wondering, about a more simple design, maybe without a paneled detail.
Full glass.
Full glass.
Or a three-quarter glass without an inset panel, just cause everything is so simple and clean on the house.
And that's fine, I do like the 3/4,
Mhm.
the panel didn't make any difference to me. If there was one in the book, I didn't notice it.
I don't know if other people have a thought about that. So
I have
this
no
is,
thought on it.
this is the
No,
one that's
it
proposed.
really doesn't make any difference to me.
And obviously, it's not visible from a public right of way, so it's not a deal breaker, but throwing that out and keeping with the simplicity of the house. And then Sean, I stepped out of the room when you were talking about the garage, but what I think I walked into was the fact that the garage will not be wood paneled. It will be simply a metal door without texture.
Yeah, on the second page of the spec sheet,
Yep.
it'll be one of the
The top.
tones from the top line.
Cool. Those were the only questions I had.
I'm trying to keep it as, pretty much as original, or as close to original as we can.
Well, now people are loving these houses again, so I'm glad this one
I grew
kept
up in
its
that house.
form all this
My
time.
father built that house, I grew up there.
Oh, really?
So
So
what is
because
that?
the shutters used to be up by the Rodinas.
Yes, it's my dad,
Oh, okay.
yeah. When I got married, I couldn't find a house in the village, so I had to move out to the North Highlands, and after he passed away, we just sold our house this year, and we wanted to come back home, so.
Sweet. You're the second family that's been before us this year in that circumstance.
The Amatos.
Amatos,
Phil
same thing.
Amato.
Oh,
He
Phil
did-
D'Amato?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to school with him.
So he's moving
Yeah.
into his mom's house,
Yeah.
which is also,
That's beautiful,
gem.
they've done a nice job.
Yeah, he's doing a really smart
Yeah,
job.
really
on that.
nice job
Yeah.
with it, yeah.
And now I call this one the love nest. It's such a cute
Because of
little,
the heart shutters?
no, it's because it's a cute little.
Thank you, I've always been partial to it.
love nest.
Andrea, any questions or
No,
comments?
I've asked my questions, I think it's a really thoughtful addition. That was
Thank you.
challenging, it was one story, not a lot of space.
How about you, Sean?
I think it's fantastic.
Okay, am I correct that the board is ready to take a vote on the application?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
It's been done.
Again, if the zoning issue changes, then obviously you'd have to come back to us for the revisions based on what the zoning board appeals, so.
So, and Aaron asked that after we have our discussion tonight, that we send a memo, the chair of the zoning board, that we send a memo with our thoughts. I think that the email that you wrote would be a really good basis for
So crib
a
from
memo
it.
to him, yeah, to crib from that,
Yeah.
cause that's sort of the essence of the conversation.
Yeah. Other than, since this and only maybe the house on Wall Street really had that intactness.
Yeah.
That to lose this house or to modify it in some way which was not terribly thoughtful to the original architecture, I think would be a great loss to the district. It's already 58 years old, you know, and it's in the local district, and it really talks about the way the village expanded in that sort of post-war baby boomer era. And it, you know, to add a second story would just ruin it. you know, and save it now and keep it for generations.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the
Excuse
application
me,
as?
do you
submitted?
guys need to close the public hearing first?
Oh, okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing, and do I have a motion to approve the application?
So moved.
Second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Go ahead,
I'll second.
take it.
Okay. Kathleen?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Done.
Hooray.
Thank you.
That was easy.
Thank you.
I like them when they're easy.
Good luck with the,
Thank you.
the variance.
All right, and
You'll
you'll,
be
So-
back in the village again.
Yeah.
and you'll.
I'm liking it.
Good.
We're there now, I mean, I'm loving it.
It's a good block.
It is, yeah.
And you'll write the memo?
Thanks again.
Sure.
She's
Thank
gonna
you.
write the memo, she's gonna crib for me.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm writing it? Okay.
Well, you already offered to.
I was saying, your memo would be a good basis for one to write a memo.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just, and Sean also contributed some cost, so.
So I forgot?
No, she writes
Oh,
it.
okay.
I read it, you edit it. I'll write it, okay.
Okay.
So here's this back.
When are the, Karen, how long is the, ZBA hearing open until?
Next week, next Thursday, the 21st, that's our second night, hopefully we'll get on then. Thank you.
Okay, we'll make sure that it arrives long before then.
Great, thank you.
See ya.
Good night.
Take care.
Oh, we should read that.
The 3 to 5 folders, 3 to 5 person.
Okay, yeah, 3 to 5 parsonage.
Hi,
How are you? I'm
Good.
Kathleen.
I'm Victor.
Victor, nice to
Hello.
meet you.
I'm Dee
Dee Dee, nice to meet you. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Carolyn?
Carolyn, nice to meet you.
Al?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Sean. Sean.
Andrea, Sean,
Andrea.
hi,
Nice
nice
to
to
meet
meet
you.
you.
Pass by your
Nice
home
to meet
frequently
you.
on my walks, I live on Terrace.
Oh, so seeing a lot of activity.
I've heard a lot of activity. I hear trees coming down. What are those trees? I don't know, it might not have been on your property, someplace that was uphill for me.
The thing that I need you to explain before you begin so that I understand, I know that the Costellos own that, there's an odd chunk at the center of that lot that belongs to the Costellos, and I don't understand how the easement across your property works to get to access there.
So,
Right.
there's a right of way, there's a 15-foot right of way, and we did submit this to the
You know, I
clerk, but-
think that the clerk has gone out quite sick, and I think that this went to the building department and we
Oh.
didn't get a copy of it.
Okay.
We have everything else. In
Okay.
fact, why don't I just, do you mind if I grab this for a second and
Sure.
I'll make
And
copies?
then- sure.
Thank you.
So you're installing the fence.
We're installing that.
With an arbor gate.
With an arbor gate.
Hopefully before the ground, pushes
Yeah,
through.
There's a lot of fences, isn't
This is just a cold snap to remind us what's coming.
there?
That's what I keep telling myself.
This is, oh, so this is on the town hall side of Parsonage, is that right? Cause which end is this?
Correct, yeah, the
Yes,
town hall
it's
side.
towards town hall.
The outnumbered side, so you're on the side that has the corner with Maple.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Blue house
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Didier, the last name is Faradagh.
Yes.
Need to keep it straight for the paper.
Okay, yes, got it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Copier is
Oh, here.
copy here. My brain can manage. Okay.
So of course, if we had a highlighter, this would be easier to show
I had a red
than
pen.
my black pen. Oh,
I have a
thank you.
highlighter. We can grab a highlighter out of the office.
So, the fence goes it starts at the back of the house, so there's obviously the two driveways. So on the left side, it's 12 feet, I think, but the arbor is 4 feet, and it will have a 12-foot gate, and that's on the left side of the house. And then on the right, it will also start at the,
Here.
no, this is the back of the house.
Okay.
It starts at the back edge of the house, which is at the end of the driveway, and then it goes down, and then this is where
Oh, inside the
custom-
line, the right of
Yeah,
way.
Correct.
to the left of the right of way, cause we're not touching the right of way. There's actually a bunch of trees right along this right of way, so it would have made it really hard to put a fence in there anyway, because of all the
Got it.
roots.
And on the other side, it goes just between the house and the property line on this side.
Yes.
Okay.
What I didn't understand when I went to look today was how it is partially up already, the fence back
In
here.
the
Correct,
back.
yeah.
I don't understand what's gonna happen as you get closer to this one.
That's Mr. Costello's fence, so he's
Mhm.
putting his panels back up,
A tree fell on his panels
so
last
these-
year and he hasn't
So those
replaced them.
panels those
Okay,
panels
here,
are
so where it says
basically like
stockade fence,
here.
that's,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what-
his. So
okay.
he's putting those back up.
Over, back here.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
So
okay,
his
so that'll
post, you
be,
can see his post,
yeah.
so he's gonna go straight back, and then ours just butt up
this would-
against his.
So
This
sort
would
of come
be
in
on the
place
front of the existing.
flush with his.
No,
Yeah.
not at all,
Oh.
set back. Well, I mean, yeah, flush perpendicular to like this third post here.
Flush
In
here.
the back of the yard,
And, right,
so like where
So
his
all the way
stockade-
back to this depth,
correct.
where his fence comes out.
Right.
Got it.
And then his fence, and then this is his fence, I don't know why I'm drawing it. If that makes sense, and then there's an existing fence on the neighbor's side here. and
Which is
then-
staying.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're connecting to that.
We
Yeah.
are,
So the new material is in the far back part of the yard and basically just along the right of way, and then the two.
And then in the back, in
Yeah.
the back of the yard, where
And
there was.
how about our nice arbor?
Arbor,
Yeah.
that will go on the left-hand side. And that's at the very back of the yard.
So that's
Okay,
at the
that's gonna go
corner
here.
with Costello.
The arbor's gonna go here, yeah, to the, if you're looking at the front, it's to the left.
yeah, there was a wire fence back there.
Right.
At the very back of the yard.
So much of that in the village.
Yeah.
I actually don't have any hesitation about the fence itself. I mean, this is sort of there are a lot of fences coming together in one
Mhm.
location back here, and the style of the panels is pretty typical
Mhm.
around the districts. The concern that I had, now I lost the image of it, is the arbor.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the way the panels are attached to the posts here, I mean, it's kinda hard to tell whether those posts are standing proud of the line of the panels of the pickets.
Looks to me as if they're installed between the posts, not on top of the posts.
On this picture?
Yeah.
Well, this
This isn't our fence.
This isn't the
This
actual
is
fence.
just,
No, I
that's just the
understand
type
that.
of fence.
Yeah,
Right,
it's just the
but
diagram.
what, so the images that you give to us
Yes.
need, and the description needs to reflect what you're putting in.
Okay.
And this example is installed as the guidelines would have it be installed, so that you can see the posts, as
Mhm.
opposed to one long run of fence put in front of posts.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
it is it is in the middle of the post, that's right. The posts do come out from the,
But as it's installed in the
Right, right.
backyard right now, because of a portion of it is installed, it is not installed that way,
It's not,
It is
no, it's
installed
sitting on top of the
on
post.
top.
Mhm.
Well, in front of the post.
Right.
yeah.
So
So,
it's one clean line all the way down.
Yeah, no, we don't do it that way.
well, so what the guidelines require is that the panels are suspended between the posts as opposed to in front, so that you don't end up with that very sort of suburban looking long run of fence.
Okay.
So,
You
but,
actually, the posts look articulated out of the thing, right.
so what's up now would need to be modified so that the posts are visible
It's
on
easy.
both sides.
Yeah, the issue is that the way it's shown here, there's a front and a back to the fence, and what we're looking for is that both sides of the fence are pretty much the same.
Okay. That makes sense. That's an easy fix.
And how about, I didn't see caps.
Yep.
Caps will be
They're gonna have caps,
like this,
just like that.
so a square cap.
Mm-hmm.
A square cap with like a little molded edge or something, right.
And how about, so this portion, this gate
Mm-hmm.
sits along the house
Correct.
It's in this space here,
on the side with
left
the
side,
downhill side.
here,
Yeah.
in here, in here.
Okay.
What's
So
the
basically
material
where the truck
you're
is now.
considering? It's
Right.
On the other side.
Cedar?
Cedar.
It's on the other side.
Behind the
Why
RV.
the jog?
No, on the other side. of the
Why
house.
the jog?
Why
Oh, this is the other
jog?
driveway with the gate.
Correct.
Got it.
Because the tree line
This
was
is the back.
here and,
Sorry.
No problem.
what was our jog here? Because Mr. Costello's fence goes to here. And there was no way, if we made it straight from there,
Mhm.
it would have run across
The right
the
of
right
way.
of way. And as I mentioned, there's about 5 trees here.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been really difficult to put the,
Right, because so basically, this is straight out,
right,
perpendicular
yeah.
down to here and then across.
Yeah.
Well, actually, then to Mr. Costello's fence.
Mhm.
And this is also new fence?
No, that's his stockade fence.
Okay. Okey-doke. I got it. Okay, do I have a motion concerning seeker?
I'd move that it's type 2, meaning no further environmental review is required, because it's a minor modification on a residential property.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Any questions? I guess, I'll start with a question concerning these two. This is a fairly straightforward picket,
Mhm.
and the pickets at the gate are different.
Yes. This will be, it will be the same dog-eared picket in here. Two things about this. This is actually a picture of an arbor that's on Pearl Street. We intended to use Gothic space picket, but then when they delivered it, it was dog-ear picket, so we had a little fight with the fence company, cause it was like, they were like, please, can you just take it if we give you a discount? We're like, no, this wasn't what we ordered.
So the lesson for next time is don't order until you've gone through your review here.
Yeah.
I mean, but either style is seen around the village, the dog ear and that picket. I think, you know, if we mark it up so it's known that matches, my concern is the actual structure, the arbor itself. The house is so simple. I'm just gonna look at pictures I took today and pass them around. The house is so simple except for this fun bit of fancy on the porch, the sort of the little Victorian addition on the side, and then these fanciful columns that you can pass around that got added, and this to me feels sort of very linear and angular by comparison. And it doesn't need to match the house necessarily, but I feel like it needs to sit comfortably with the house, and I don't, maybe others have different views, but I don't get that sense that it sits comfortably with the structure, especially because it will be so close to the structure.
Yeah, but it'll be set back, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's perfectly fine.
I guess my question is that we got two different types of bracket in the same arbor. You've got this type of bracket here, and then back here, there's another one. That's the one.
Which two types of bracket are you talking about? Oh, the front and the back?
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what others.
Maybe if you just took the brackets off?
Yeah.
Or just use one type of bracket.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you have this other bracket in the porch itself, which is
I know, that's
quite
why I was looking at
ornate,
it.
but I think,
Yeah, I don't think you'd be able to recreate that.
I think something of that
very
size
easily,
on
yeah.
this size
Yeah.
arbor would be kind of overwhelming.
I think that in order to not compete with, you know, that, when you look at the house, that's what strikes you, is the flourish on the columns. And I feel like this element shouldn't compete with that really strong character
Right.
defining feature, and if it were either more simple or took an element from, it would sit more comfortably.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
these are these are quite complex brackets as well as columns. The columns are later, of course. But, you know,
Right, but they're nothing
where
like that.
the house ends, okay, the front porch doesn't go all the way across. And this is set back the entire depth of the house. You know, it's not like right at the street face where you'd be seeing it and
Next
they
to
would
it's
be
a picture.
competing. They're just not competing because it's set way back.
Well, I think,
And it's just one small thing there.
well, I think differently, because you do experience this house almost in the round as you come up, from Maple and up the hill from Parrot, you do experience it on three sides. So you actually, even though that is set back, you do see a lot of the house, and you see back to that depth. It's a big lot,
Yeah,
actually.
it's a big lot, but look where the next door house is, the one-story frame garage, okay? This is set back even from that garage, so when you're seeing it in the round, that is set so far back and it's partially obscured by the neighbor's garage that you're really not seeing a heck of a lot of that unless you're actually walking. Now, because of the slope of Parsonage Street, not a
You're
lot of
walking
people
pretty quickly.
walking.
And also it's a path, it's a route to school, so it actually does get a lot of pedestrian traffic.
No, they actually come all up my street.
What's the
Because
purpose
my
of,
street has
what's
the
the purpose?
stairs.
We have a dog.
Oh, you mean of the fence or the arbor?
Of the arbor.
Oh.
I mean, is it to act as a trellis, is it to act as a anchor for vegetation, or just as a architectural folly?
I think the
Oh,
latter.
yeah, it's more of an architectural quality.
Okay. I mean, to me, this is like, falls under like swing sets,
Yeah,
like it's not,
we had a similar discussion with the Gogglers on High Street. Remember they wanted to install an arbor as part of their fence?
And we went to a simpler line, as I recall, but maybe I'm recalling
Yeah,
incorrectly.
but there was also right next to their front door.
Right.
And this one doesn't look like it's out of, you know, like a cookie cutter one, because there are certain ones you see, there's a couple in the village. There's the one on High Street, the new one on High Street, and there's one on Paulding, and they look more like they're out of a catalog, and this one doesn't look
Yeah,
so
it doesn't look
catalogy.
chintzy, I mean, it looks just like a, I don't know, I have
It's a
no
nice
opinion
thing.
on it,
I
I
know,
have
it's
to
a nice
say.
thing.
You
It's a
have
nice
what?
thing.
I have no opinion on it.
Do we want to ask that the brackets be the same?
Consistent across the structure.
Yeah,
From one to
because
the other.
that's the case with the
I think that's
facade of
reasonable.
the house, and I don't know, it drives me crazy, like.
Oh, no, I know,
For my
I thought I gave
property.
you mine. I mean, if I were choosing, if I were not choosing, but if I were recommending, let's see what brackets on the front. I mean, this shape is more reflective of, this is sort of convex, concave, right?
Mhm.
This one goes in the opposite direction of the one in the back goes in the opposite direction of what your brackets actually do, and this one in the front is more like your brackets. And that looks to me like a sort of simplified version of what you've got on the house, and that would be, I think, a nice reflection of it. Now that you've pointed that at my, for some reason I was looking at it, I was focusing on this more as rafters, but once you drew my attention to the different brackets, now I understand why my eye was not, why it wasn't sitting well.
Yeah, and it seems like there's just a lot going on in a very small little feature. But the brackets, I think, are necessary because, you know, the structure is, you know, sort of, needs some reinforcement in the corner. Okay, the other question that I have is that on this one you have 4-foot gates. Where is that?
Oh, cause there's
Well,
been,
we're gonna construct them ourselves. So we wanna create enough room just in case we needed to get a trailer back there or a truck.
Mm-hmm.
So one is going to be, fixed, it'll have a drop pin. And then the other one will be a 4-foot gate that you can use every day.
Okay, but where is?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the opposite
It's
side.
on the, that's on the right
on the-
side.
On the
Yeah.
easement side.
Okay, so. Let me go back to my
So it's gonna
markup
be
here.
made of the same fencing material that,
And
Yeah.
exact
Okay.
fencing.
and the same
All
type
right.
of posts and.
So it's gonna be sort of a removable panel as opposed to a gate?
No, it's gonna be a gate, yeah.
All right, so
But if-
what we're saying here is that you're gonna have something like this.
So that both sides
Right.
open, right? One's gonna have a drop pin to hold it still, and the other will
Correct.
be used more frequently, but they could both
Yeah.
open if they needed to.
Okay. All right, so, the application is for the dog-eared fence and patios. Between the posts.
Square caps. Wooden caps or metal caps? There would be
Wooden.
metal in there. So that one's a two-family?
It is.
It's a great house. Are you moved in now, or are you doing work
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Oh, how exciting, and here you are with
Oh,
us.
I don't know if exciting is the word, or it's like,
Where are you moving from?
Beacon?
From Beacon, all right. Wow, that doesn't happen very often. The people move from Beacon to Cold Spring. Welcome, it's a good neighborhood. We got a lot of good folks on that block.
yeah.
Thank you.
Very
Oh, yes, and Caroline's on the other end.
So, and the panel on that is gonna be dog-eared and,
terrible that they call them dog-eared, they don't look like dog's ears.
Yeah, they do.
Just
Like if
dog
it
ears
folds
sticking straight up.
down.
Like a cartoon dog.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
like if
like-
a dog's ear like full,
That's what my dog's ears
like
look like.
that.
Okay. So the application with the following modifications, the fence panels between the posts as opposed to on one side. The arbor has the dog-eared top and the one type of brackets. Do I have a motion concerning the application?
I move to accept as annotated.
Second?
Okay, Sean,
Aye?
Andrea?
Aye.
I vote aye.
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 Thank you.
Oh.
You're welcome.
So does anyone know about the 15-foot right of way? I think we started talking about it, but then
I knew it was there, I didn't know exactly where
I
it
always
went.
thought that was a village thing, that was a village-owned property, I
Well,
didn't know it was
that
the Costellos owned it.
survey
Oh,
says
no, we
village.
own
no,
it.
we
No,
own
the
it.
the village
Costellos
has something
owned it.
behind it.
No, the
Is right of way the
says-
same as an easement?
an easement allows them access. The Costellos have a lot that's contiguous to their lot, but is not, it's got a separate property line and it's a separate taxable parcel that somehow came down in the same way that your property did, where one child inherited one piece and another child inherited another, so there's this sort of orphaned chunk in the middle of the lot.
I don't think it was something like that, I think that,
Well, this is
I
the
think-
story that I'm told, and so to get back to it, because they want to potentially be able to drive a car, this easement, when the village had rights, this easement got put in so that Costellos could drive back there. It's not, see how it says now or formerly Village of Cold Spring? They belong to
that
Costellos
is
now.
now, or Village of Cold, now
Right,
or
and-
formerly, but this is where Costello is.
Right, and now they
Now-
own this as well. They bought this piece.
Oh, they did buy
Ah.
that piece, okay.
But the
So when
shape
did
of the
they
lot,
get when did they get the right of way?
forever ago. It's been there at least
Yeah,
as
but
long
it
as.
didn't attach their property until they bought that extra piece.
But it's been a while. It's been at least since 2000, when Matt and Heidi bought in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was like that.
The world may never know.
The world may never know.
Right, so we'll process this over the weekend and probably be mailed to you on Monday.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Happy moving in. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So much.
Nice to meet you, welcome to Cold Spring, the neighborhood.
Thanks to me walking all the time with our dog.
Hi. Oh wait, is this your glass case, Al? Okay.
Hello. Howdy. Good to see you.
Hi, I'm Andrea, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Andrea,
Clay Coffee.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Clay, how are you?
Sean.
Hey Sean, Clay Coffee. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Carolyn.
Hey Caroline, Clay Coffee.
Kathleen, hi Clay.
Nice to meet
Sean,
you.
Sam, good to see you again. Everybody knows Paul.
Yes, hello.
Another Parsons Street neighbor.
So Sam submitted 2 copies of everything, but we have the other 4 here.
Oh, right.
So, and there are different parts of them. Should I make a package of them?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Forward. Here, why don't you put it here, mine, Sam? One, two, three, 4. And then cuts. These are probably better order here. So I don't know who doesn't have, but. He has 2 copies too.
There's 2 copies.
That's
There's 2 copies.
So as you know, this lot has had a little bit of a history. It actually goes back to the Foundry days, when it was all one big area. Carolyn, you know about that too. It and 3 other adjacent properties were in one family, kind of a family up until 2000. And at that point, one of these 4 lots was subdivided. And that's a different kind of history, but in any case, when it was built in the 1880s, obviously the house that's on Pine Street, 36 Pine, was the primary structure, and the stable or barn was the accessory structure to that. And this one, I guess like Karen's project in a way, we're going back working with the ZBA as well, because, you know, while we could file for fewer variances and put the barn within the setback, so we'd eliminate the side yard setback and the front yard setback, we really think it needs to be where it is.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
So you are assisting with the application process and you're the project architect?
That's correct.
There, there.
Okay,
So
we're good.
there can be-
We need help here.
We sit with Paul a lot.
Yeah, Paul knows the whole system.
I'm a small architect from Southold, New York. I'm good friends with Sam from way back, so when we took this thing on, it was clearly, I work in a small hamlet in Long Island, understand the historical value of these things, but I'm not local to your neck of the woods, so
And
we
you,
appreciate Paul.
as I recall from Sam's last visit, you specialize in barns, is that? Or
We-
you do a lot of work with
We
barns?
do a lot of work with historical preservation and restoration. We also do a lot of work with upgrading and modifying historical structures. So we're currently, not to get too far off course here, but we're doing my own house, which is 1780s structure, which is one of 16 land grant structures in Southold. But we're also working with Southold Historical Society, and we're working with a vineyard in Southold to rebuild an existing 1780s barn and cut shop.
Cool.
So we did a bunch of different things with old barns.
Yeah, we just lost an old barn in the village
Oh, it was a
in the
beauty.
past year. Crown in St. Paul.
Which barn?
It can
Across from
happen
Butterfield.
sooner than
Oh,
you
that
think
was
it would.
Down
Yeah.
Windstorm, windstorm.
We lost other ones
Racket.
too.
One of the things we're worried about is
Okay, so,
So
sorry,
and-
taking you back on
and that's-
track.
And that's one of our concerns here, is because, you know, we've, I don't know if you know, our office has been doing some research into just accessory structures in the village of Cold Spring. We've been mapping them for quite some time now.
Wow.
And we've been using Sanborns as one source. We've also been obviously looking at Google Earth, but we also have been going back into advertising and into newspaper articles and stuff to find out when things were built. So that's how we know that this was built as a store. And you can see
This
where
was a
the,
nice house,
And you
I
can
think,
see
right?
by the,
you can see the
windows
infill
in the
of brick,
front,
it's
yeah.
right, and on the side, you can see where the side door to the upstairs
Mhm.
apartments, it had 4 apartments in it. And the barn, and these we found, that were advertised for sale as one unit, cheaper than you could build them for. And that's when it went into the Dunseth family who purchased them. In any case, what we find most interesting about this project, or what I found interesting about it, is that it obviously was a primary structure and a second and accessory structure. But when its properties were split in 1984, then we actually have 2 primary structures. But we think it's imperative that we continue to read them as primary and accessory structure, and in relocating it, the barn somewhere else on the property would automatically negate that. And that would be a loss not only for, you know, the property, and it would be also close to you know, the neighbor, but it'd be a loss for the district. So, we've been looking at it different ways, and ways that, you know, we have some photo, so this is, for example, this is some of the accessory structures research we've been doing. So
Wow.
this is kind of all accessory structures in the village of Cold Spring, from any time we can find.
I think we'll share this for the public files when
Sure.
you're finished with the project, because this would be great to have as a
Yeah.
resource.
Is this part of the,
But this,
the code update?
No, this is just our office.
Oh, no, this is just
Yeah,
something
yeah,
you're doing
yeah.
privately, okay.
So, in here, the purple are the structures that are pre-1898 that remain.
Wow.
So there are not very many of them,
mm-mm.
right? There are only 3 in this area, and this one we know is from 1880, so it's actually pre-1897, so there aren't very many left.
I feel like the Sanborn had either on this block or the block further away, Ice House.
No,
There
that,
is-
the
is-
ice
Or is that
house
over
was
here?
at
It
the
was right
back
there.
of Judy Bontage's property next
Ah,
door.
okay.
Yeah, that's right, this was right at the back, yeah, that's right. Sanborn didn't care about this part of Cold Spring until 1927,
Right, right.
so before that,
No, actually,
That's what I-
1912 has my property on it,
does it?
which is back to
But,
back
oh,
with
there
Judy's.
are a couple, I'm sorry, it doesn't care about this property.
No, it doesn't care about that property, that's right. But it has other parts of Parsons
That's right,
Yeah.
that's right. So-
that are
so-
even earlier.
So we've done studies, and these are things that we're gonna be looking at with the ZBA too, but, this is where the barn is currently on the property. If we moved it over to get rid of the side yard setback, that's what there would be. If we moved it so that there were no setbacks, it could be, within the square in the middle, but that would really change the way that you see it. These are just illustrating 2 of those, so this is existing, this is where it is now. If we were to put it into the setback and not have any variance, then it would be, 2 kind of very large buildings right next to each other.
How far is it off the street here? What's that dimension between
That is 1'9" to the property line. But as we know in Cold Spring, the property line and the sidewalk are.
Different things,
the?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it was meant to be that close because you
That's
were
right.
meant to take,
That's
carriage
right.
in and out of it.
That's right, and you didn't wanna have to plow, and you didn't have to wanna, do anything else with that. Anyway, so, what we've been doing is superimposing the current tax map on the old map. So this is, for example, on top of the Miller map. This is the Beers, the Bevan map that shows, you can see there's almost nothing on here. And then it was divided, so we have the current maps plotted on top too, but anyway, this is, we can get to when we get to the public hearing, because I assume that there will need to be, this is the original subdivision. This is actually when the foundry was about to close because they went bankrupt. And so they started figuring out how they could divide up the property and, make money, because at that
Sell
point,
it.
it was the only way they could make any money back, because it was just in real estate. Anyway, so
So where'd you get this map from?
this one was
1880?
in West Point, it was in the museum, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, 'cause mine are both Ladue here.
If the structure is moved, how much of the existing fabric would we retain?
Yeah, so the intention here, obviously the siding is not original, it's been replaced. It is Sam's intention to reuse the horizontal frame, because it seems solid. The sill plates are obviously gone because there's no foundation
right,
on
it's
this
just
thing.
on concrete, right?
But not
It's on
even,
stone
even.
post,
yeah.
it's on nothing, basically.
And there's, as in other parts of Cold Spring, the dirt has been built up around it, so
Sure.
it's rotten. But the frame itself is in very good shape. So the intention is to reuse that frame. I'm assuming that we can, get around to other things. But the design that Clay has, and Clay will get into that, although I don't know if you see it in the drawings that we have here, those posts are exposed on the interior. So that would actually be, that's a welcome part of it, that's an expected part of it. So in
But
other
that's
words,
not-
we would
that's
be
not visible to
disassembled. It would be
That's not visible to the public.
That's correct.
But they're not,
But
the
that's-
frame isn't visible right
Anyway.
now.
But, the intention is to keep the form and the shape and the siding, and that's what we're trying to do. So we would be disassembling it, we would, get into it when Clay's talking about it, but the intention is to reuse the siding, though not original likely, for fencing or for some other thing that we can
Would be
keep on the property.
Yeah, or interior kind of
Mhm.
siding in the kitchen, things like that. Sam's interested. I mean, one of the things that we really, when Sam came to this as a project, what made us very attracted to it is that it's atypical, right? And that's one of the problems. That's why we're here, right? It's like it's a non-typical project. It's a non-typical zoning kind of issue. But that's what makes it special. And that's what we think makes it special about small towns, is that there are cool things that are atypical that are part of small towns that make them special. And those atypical aspects of like barns like this are important. And to reinvent them into things that are viable for a modern community is also important. And that's where we think this like project has a home, is that it's about taking a historic structure, trying to stay historically correct in terms of proportion, in terms of quality of work, in terms of location on site, but modernizing that in some ways to make it kind of viable for a 21st century. That said, we're open to comments on it. We love feedback. If there are things that you guys feel like we need to do to make it more viable, we're happy to talk about it. We want this to be a successful project in the town. We want it to be successful for Sam, for the town, Cold Spring, and we're happy.
Then you're gonna have to start saying village, because if you say town, people will know you're not from here.
Well, you know, as soon as I say yes, ma'am, you'll know. Because I'm a southerner at heart.
I know, you go across the river to West Point, they all say yes ma'am and yes sir.
Well,
All the time. I love
that's
it,
true.
I love it.
No, nowhere,
more crisp.
That's right,
Yes,
that's right.
sir.
nowhere else in,
Ma'am.
in New York will they say ma'am, but we'll certainly love to have some feedback. We're trying to build a quality structure for Sam and for the village, and we totally open to your
Can we
thoughts and
talk more
feedback.
about, oh, sorry, I was gonna say, can you talk more about the
Okay, so
design?
this is the streetscape here.
That is, so what we did
I
is we.
love the shutter feature because what we experience now is that plain barn facade, and you were able to keep that.
So what this is we built a 3D model of the structure. We went out and measured it with Sam, built a 3D model of it, and in our computer program we superimposed that back onto the site. And so what you're seeing is a 4.5 inch or basically finished face siding. You're seeing the exact kind of idea of what we want to do with the shutters, so the exposure for the shutters and things like that. And so this would be in the kind of closed format, what we're proposing for what that building would look like in the streetscape. So we literally took this photo and put it back in the site.
How likely is it, if I, as a user, am living in this structure, how likely is it that those are gonna be closed? I mean, I'm imagining that these are.
Not video.
Well, no, what I'm thinking about is right now it appeals because Andrea's right, it does capture the essence of the structure. This is one of the buildings I've been worried about for a long time because it has been orphaned, and I keep thinking, oh, this is the year we're gonna lose that barn, this is the year we're gonna lose it, and it's like a missing tooth on that block because nobody's caring for it. And I really am into the concept of making a building useful again. And this captures the spirit of that, but I'm wondering if they're not gonna just be open all the time anyway, and you won't read it as a barn.
So based on the program and the floor plans that you would look at, I would actually think that you would keep them closed 95% of the time because it's such a public space.
Would
Right,
you have a
and
floor
so-
plan here?
Realistically,
No,
it's
there's no
about
floor
it, sorry, maybe.
No, this is less than 2 feet away from the sidewalk, and so, I mean,
It's
that
more,
full
it's more
height-
about, light into the
Mhm.
space
So like
and
a
less
louvered
about view.
effect?
Right, that's
Yeah,
right.
but your shutter is a full height thing, so you can't just close the half of the shutter at the bottom and leave the top open.
That's true, but we could modify it to do that.
Yeah,
Cause
That's
I
an
mean,
interesting-
if
yeah.
if
Yeah,
I were
we
doing
keep
it,
coming
that's the way
back
I
to
would do
that.
it. I mean, cause
Yeah.
sometimes you want the privacy, but you want the light, so.
But I would think that it would be like something in like, for instance, like the hurricane shutters in like New Orleans, right? Where when they're fully on the street, 95% of the time those things are closed, but they're letting some light in, right?
Well, it's also, I mean, that's a really good example, sort of thinking in the broader American context,
So
but
it's
we
like a
also.
louvered shutter.
Right.
Yeah, but
Mm.
vertical, yeah.
But we also have around the village a number of Gothic revival structures that have tall windows and shutters, so this is not without precedent here either. The idea of a lancet window, you might initially think would be less common, but if you look up and down Parrot and Parsonage, there are a lot of
No,
lancet
Parrot,
top.
the two houses on Parrot and Pine, opposite sides of Parrot and Pine, their top windows are lancet windows, and actually.
There's a number of them.
Yeah, there's quite a number of them going down Parrot, yeah.
On High Street as well.
And High Street as well,
Yes.
yeah. So, I can imagine, I feel like there's openness to this among some of us at the table, we don't know about everybody yet. I feel like folks who understand reusing a building will understand this concept. I can see how people might lose their minds about this, in the village, cause there hasn't been this kind of, I mean, being very honest with you, there
Yeah,
hasn't been this
I
kind of
understand.
radical reuse.
It's not really a reuse
It's-
because it's really
New.
completely disassembling it and then reimagining it.
Exactly, so how
And-
you frame it, how you
Yeah,
frame the
but-
presentation will make a big difference.
Yeah, but, you know, and in a way, this is sort of slightly similar to what, James and Juhi did with their office.
Yeah.
You know, it was also a building that you believe is a demolition, I believe is a reconstruction, but that's okay. But, you know, I've been waiting to see something that's a modern take on an existing building in Cold Spring. Or not even on an existing building, but sort of a modern building in Cold Spring. You know, because we don't have them, and I think you can do a modern building in Cold Spring.
Well,
I think, you know,
James and
I think-
Judy's, didn't they do, I think it was their work, cause it was a passive house, right on the
On
river,
Kemble.
by,
Oh, and right on the river, that's outside of the district
Kemble,
though.
that's another great example.
That's in the district. But this one
Yeah.
actually,
But we have
echoes
very-
the structure that's there, which I
Yeah.
think is an accomplishment.
Which is an interesting,
We don't have a lot of, structures in the district, where they've gone from a utilitarian role to residential. So I think it's exciting to see an example of that.
Mhm.
Well,
Here.
none
None
that
that I
have
can
been
think of.
adapted recently.
Some
We have
stores have been.
plenty that
Frank's
were
house.
adapted in
Yeah.
antiquity,
Yes.
Yeah.
but.
I don't think we've seen like a true accessory structure turn into a residence, and I think it's a great way of rescuing this structure.
well, and actually, in terms of modern buildings in Cold Spring, not, you know, basically, yes, you have the house on Campbell, you got the house on the river.
Dan's house kind of.
Well, Ann's house is really trying to recreate a Victorian
Yeah.
vibe there in a heavy way, which,
Yeah.
you know, but basically, since the district has been in existence since the 70s,
Mm.
I mean, there's been very little reconstruction.
Right, so we have a lot, there's very few empty lots.
Yeah, and I'm not giving up mine, so.
You sure we can't do that
Yeah.
modern yeah, in the future?
I think we
I've already
all
designed it.
ought to understand that this is a demolition of this structure.
Yes,
And it's a construction of this. This is not salvaging anything, because realistically, I remember the photographs that you showed us of the inside, and I have a hard time believing that framing is gonna be reusable for any modern purposes, especially because the framing was for a large open barn, and I would assume that you're going to be looking for living space. And so I have a hard time believing that you may wind up reusing some pieces, but that framing is not gonna be.
And that's a really good point, and I felt the same way. Like, I originally told Sam, like, this is a tear down and yeah, get rid of it. We walked through with Paul recently, and I think Paul has some real points, and I'd love to show you some parts of it that are actually surprisingly intact and stable. To your point, though, I do agree with you. Like, I do think that the reuse and the adaptive reuse of that structure is one in which would be around it being a historical nod, let's say, to the fabric of the community, right? It's not that we can meet all energy code or structural code with that structure, right? Like, we're absolutely gonna have to update it and modernize it. There definitely are some members in there, and some post and beam work that's in that building that is definitely salvageable, that we can use.
Agreed,
to
but
your
that's
point.
not gonna be the primary structure. you know.
Right, and to your
I mean,
point,
you
we
get-
are
you
gonna
get-
have to take it down in order to rebuild it.
Right.
You're not gonna just be able to like declad it and then rebuild it,
Well, it's
because
the
it's,
same as
So-
you did.
it's falling down.
Oh, I mean,
So how,
Similar,
so how
yeah.
is the,
We actually
how is the interior laid out in terms of, you know, levels and things like that? I mean, is it just a loft and up there?
No, it's got a full floor, so
It's a
it's
full
actually,
it's
it's
full
a full
two-story.
two-story place, yeah.
Okay, and so you're gonna have almost 700 square feet?
It's smaller, yeah, it's
Smaller.
smaller, it's just right at 600 square feet.
How, are you?
Is 600 square feet legit in Cold Spring?
That is the minimum.
Is 600 the minimum? I thought it was like 680 or something like that. 600 is the minimum?
Yeah.
So you just squeeze by, yeah.
How does the height compare, with the structure that's there now?
So the goal is to keep it the exact same height. So, and one of the great things about what's there now is that we actually have an eave height, and one of the ways that we've set up the structure is that, if you go to the structure now, the stairs are in the, basically the exact same position as the stairs are now. So when, if you were to enter, there's an existing door here, on the, you know, in this barn, and then there's a set of stairs that come up directly there, and that's the same layout that we're proposing. And that set of stairs lands you in a place where you have enough headroom to get into the structure. And then we're utilizing that kind of vaulted ceiling, the gable vault, to give you enough headroom on the second floor. So it operates almost more as a story and a half than as like a full two-story space, even though it is full 2 stories, but it's like, you know, your eve, where your
Unless you
eve
dug
is.
down on the inside for the first one.
Right, and so where your eve is here is, you know, at about 6 feet basically, and then it
Mhm.
goes up from there. But we're not proposing it to go above where we are now.
Which is 25.
Right at 25, something like that, yeah.
I mean, it's pushing up only as much as we need to get a foundation underneath it and
Right.
pull it out of the ground.
Right.
Mhm.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the other question is this the layout that you're proposing?
The site plan, you mean?
Site.
Yes.
So where did we
So
leave
that's where
off?
it was.
When you first came forward with this, with the broad concept last year, there was talk with the ZBA about accommodating parking, et cetera. It looks like so you would have to have
We
variances
have
for.
two vehicle requirement for this.
Right,
And
so
so what
you'd
we're
need
proposing
one-
is one on here, so we get a variance for one vehicle.
Okay,
It's a
and
permeable-
that, is it configured in a way that it faces, let me, I have to get the page in front of me. So you are going, the car will face into the back of the lot, not,
Yes, yes.
okay. So you'll have to ask for side and front yard setback, parking space,
Mhm.
what other variances?
Well, we're not entirely sure because there's some dispute about what all the variances
Uh-huh.
are. There are as many as 7, but we don't know for sure.
I'm just wondering, I mean, because we're going to talk to you about design,
Mhm.
and potentially your design is gonna be impacted in major ways by what the zoning board says, if it's worth you paying their time to be sitting with us before that conversation happens. I mean, I think that an argument can be made from a district standpoint to say it makes much more sense to leave the building in its footprint, to maintain the street line, to maintain the neighborhood character. I think there are lots of good reasons from a preservation standpoint that we can be supportive of this application. And bringing it up to code would totally take it out of character with everything around it. But you are gonna have to ask those questions and have those approvals.
That's right.
Before-
But I don't think that that's out of the question. And I think that because it is really a dialogue about whether or not, because we could, you know, I mean, Sam, not in love with this idea, but, so he wouldn't wanna do it, but we really think it needs to stay here. We really do. That's why we're saying,
Well,
that
I do
we
too.
could cut out 2 variances straight off the bat by putting it in the middle of the lot. It'd be dead wrong for every reason there is.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
the thing that you have to remember is that the questions that they had asked us was whether or not this was, whether preserving the existing structure was important to the district, or something along that lines.
When the
But
ZBA
the-
was looking
but-
at it the first time, you
Yeah,
mean?
but the question, or the answer to the question is that you're not preserving it. You're essentially knocking it down, and you're trying to reuse as much as you can, but you're building a new building.
But the construction of a new structure on this site has a tremendous impact on the character of that street in the district.
Agreed,
Yeah.
agreed, but I mean, that's, the zoning board has their own criteria that they're looking at.
Absolutely, but I think that it's worth, if we feel strongly that the location on the site is one of the, I mean, there aren't a lot of character defining features of this structure because it's a simple utilitarian structure, but what defines it? Its relationship to the street, its relationship to the structures around it. And moving it to make it comply with the zoning code loses those two character defining features.
Yeah, I would argue that the volume and the proportion of the structure is unique.
Oh,
And that
absolutely.
that also is part of that kind of fabric and location.
But building a
It's-
new building in that volume, of that volume.
Right.
In another location changes all relationships on that
And-
block.
And if we're maintaining volume of like a historical proportion, and that helps.
I mean, keeping the frame out is one of those things where, this is what we'd be keeping, right? Because that is in fact solid. Like if you,
Right, you're talking about everything above the first floor.
no, I'm talking about everything from grade, so we would actually have.
But the sill plates are gone.
Sill plates are gone, absolutely.
All right,
Sill
so,
plates are gonna be-
realistically, you mean to tell me that you've checked all of these posts to make sure that
These
the
posts
rod
go
has
all the
not
way up,
traveled
and
from the sill?
If I take an awl and I jam it into it, it goes nowhere else.
Which he
It's
did
solid, solid hard pine. That's old wood. You
Okay.
know that stuff. We're
Is
not
that-
gonna
I
make it
was
straight again.
skeptical.
We're not gonna make it straight again, but that wood, you could.
I know, but realistically, by the time you're finished with all of this stuff, this is not gonna be visible to the public. This is, if anything, you may be able to showcase part of it on the inside for the benefit of the residents. But essentially, none of this is gonna be seen to the outside.
But staying with that maintains the form
The
and the
proportion.
volume and the proportion.
I know, but you don't need this to maintain the form and the volume.
No, you don't, but it's a
And
plus.
the thing is that in addition to the post, you also have to meet the energy codes and all the other criteria, which, to me, to try and save something that we can't see doesn't make sense.
But they're
But
wanting
they're-
to do that,
and-
right?
And their design, I don't know if you can see it in the section, but their design
We haven't seen it.
incorporates or intended to have that frame exposed on the inside,
Okay.
so it's not.
Which is
there's-
fine,
And it
but-
still
But
meets
what I'm
energy.
saying is that for the purposes of the district, this is really, I mean, it's very similar to, what you did as far as the cottage. and-
But that was a structure that could not be saved.
Well,
So,
okay, but I mean, realistically, from the public point of view, what is the difference?
Well, you can make an argument that if this could be salvaged, that frame can be salvaged, that preserves the original construction methods used to make that
Yeah.
structure,
Absolutely.
which was unique
But-
because it's a barn, it's not a house.
I know.
It's going to be a house.
But the thing is that he's gotta insulate it, so it's not, you're not gonna see that.
But we don't have to
It
worry
doesn't
about
matter,
that.
it's,
But that was
you
always
know,
gonna
in
be-
amber
but-
for another 100 years,
I'm
so-
not sure what you're
Okay,
arguing
but-
for. I'm just confused about what you're arguing for.
What I'm arguing is that, realistically, the fact that we may be able to save some of the interior framing doesn't mean that much.
But the
Because-
alternative is that the
It didn't
building
lose it all.
is demolished and,
Right,
or
And-
falls down in a
and-
snowstorm.
right, and was it not that basically it's gotta be taken apart to be
But if you have the option of saving some or saving none, wouldn't you always tend to saving some?
Okay, how many instances have we had where?
But are you advocating for them to
Let me
take it all
finish,
down?
let me finish. How many instances have we had where, oh, we're gonna save this and we're gonna save this, well, once construction starts, foundation walls get rebuilt, you know, the cottage gets rebuilt. Once construction starts, I find it that most often expediency winds up taking precedent over saving historic fabric.
So
But-
are you saying that we should review this application as if it's, type 1?
No, all
No,
I'm
we
saying.
wouldn't, we don't do,
No.
I mean, the likelihood of us having a type one again is almost
It
zero.
was a double whammy, I'm still
No,
like
no,
shaking.
this is
It was
in
a
a
triple
this is in a local district, it's not next to any,
Yeah.
I guess,
registered
I mean,
property.
I understand what you're saying, I don't understand what you're saying, I actually, but what I'm saying is, I mean, I think as far as whether it's gonna be entirely new construction or whether it's gonna maintain the historic framing, what we're approving is how it's gonna look from the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
And as far as making plans for next steps, I would advocate for keeping the new structure in the footprint of the existing structure, and I
Okay,
don't.
well then let's keep it at that.
Well,
I
that's all
think
we're being
that's
asked to
basically
consider
what.
at this moment.
Well, but that's basically what we're talking about here. We're not talking about salvaging anything here. Realistically, and I remember seeing the photographs of it, when I took a look at what I saw on the inside, realistically, there's not a hell of a lot that can be saved here. You may be able to save some framing, but realistically, the siding was in pretty poor shape.
Oh,
So
that's
if
right.
you
We
wind
want
up reusing it, you're gonna reuse it, like you said, maybe for a fence or something like that, but you're not gonna reuse it on the building. So realistically, let's be honest about it. This is a new building, and trying to
But Al,
maintain
there's
the.
nothing negative here. What
I
they're
was thinking
trying
it
to
was
do.
disputing whether
No,
or
it's
not
disputing
it's
it.
It's no, it's no
So-
different.
So then why are
It's
you
no different
arguing
from
with
what,
me?
you're arguing, you're arguing with the argument.
All I said,
It's
All
no
you're
different
arguing
from
with
126
yourself.
Main Street. 126 Main Street is a brand new
Internal
building.
I know.
And Sue took a whole bunch of wood from there, did a whole bunch of things on the inside.
I know.
And it's a brand
So-
new building
so-
that was
so-
Wait a minute.
torn down.
Everybody,
Talking about
1,
it.
2, 3, new construction.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, we're fine calling it that.
All right.
We're fine calling it new construction in a historic footprint,
Context.
in a historic volume, proportion. Absolutely.
Fine.
Happy
That's
to do
all I
that.
wanted to hear.
Right on.
Happy
Keep
to do
going.
that.
I mean, the 126 Main Street was a Main Street building that was torn down and rebuilt, and not a single person came to any of the public hearings in opposition to it. So I don't
Agreed.
see how
Yeah,
And I'm not saying-
they had,
this is
you know,
going to.
they had to recreate those brackets on it.
I'm not saying that I am against this, because realistically, this is not, it's not gonna last.
Yeah, I'm against this.
I mean, that's gonna come down one way or another
Straight cat habit.
within the near future. But to sit there and somehow say that we're salvaging things,
Nobody's saying we're salvaging, we're
No.
saying we're rebuilding in the
I
spirit.
did, and you know what, Al, if we decide that we're gonna reuse it, we're gonna reuse it, and you won't ever see it.
That's
That's
okay.
It's
right.
gonna be there, and the way, the extremes we go to on National Park Service projects to save the partial joist underneath the front porch
Yes,
that
right.
nobody sees,
Right, for real.
we do that.
And
We do that. And
and
as a part of-
that
and
you're
that's-
talking about
it's
historic
fabric.
fabric and historic structures.
That's what we're
This-
talking about here, the frame.
I
In
know,
a-
but it's
in
a
an
barn.
1880s barn.
Okay.
It's a
So-
barn that is an element of the workaday life
That's
in
right.
this village.
Okay, and is that barn gonna stay?
Al, why are you having this argument with yourself?
I'm not having this argument with myself.
Yes,
You're
you
having,
are.
you're
We are
arguing
all
with me.
saying this is an opportunity for us to capture an element of the district in a way that is respectful of the character and its past. That's what we're saying.
And all I
Okay.
was saying, Al, just
New
not to bring it
construction.
back, was it, if we elect to do that, we will do that, and you will
Okay.
need to know.
Yeah,
Right.
new
Because it's not part
construction,
of-
and
but-
you can use
Right.
all
And
that
you
part.
can't tell
We can
from
do that.
pictures, anyway.
Right.
You
Okay,
can't tell from photographs
Yes,
what
you
the,
can.
I think
With
that
the-
at least
You can
four of
certainly
us
can-
and
you can tell
potentially
better than-
five are in concept and in principle quite supportive of the proposal. Otherwise, this becomes a gaping missing tooth on Parsonage Street. It becomes an empty lot.
Okay. So then, the conversation that we should be having is really how this fits within the context of what is.
That's what we're trying to have.
That's right.
No, you're not.
I think it fits very well
I
in the
think it does too.
context
I think it's
of
marvelous.
the streetscape. I think if the alternative would be centering it in the lot, it would really, not only would it look strange, but I mean, it would totally detract from a relationship to
It
this
has a
place.
relationship
And
to
if I'm
this.
reading
Every
this
building around it.
plan correctly, is this shaded area is the back porch of this building?
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, it would look like it was
It would look like the primary
stacking
structure got
the other house. It would
And-
look
and
like
as
it was
if
some
it's-
sort of like a,
If its
I don't know,
primary had been
land
destroyed. If it were left back here, you'd think, what happened to the structure that used to be here?
Okay,
It needs
and
to
I
be
guess,
instead of relating
what are
here.
the other zoning variances that we're looking at, that you said up to 7?
Lot width, lot depth,
Okay.
setback,
Lot size.
Which are, lot
Side
size,
parking.
which is,
backyards.
there's not a hell of a lot that you can do about that. Okay.
parking. And so it has to have two, that's the,
Yeah, a single family house
Yeah,
has to have
same house,
two
yeah.
spaces.
that is like so
Wait, a
reductive.
single family house
But
has to have two spaces?
That's the thing
That's
that's
correct.
exciting about this
Off,
project, I
off
think.
street. See, this,
Off
and,
street.
and we
It's the
all
potential.
know that the zoning code
They
that
don't
we
have to be in a
have
garage.
doesn't relate to
So the
our
older houses, so
historic district.
if you're new construction, you have to have two spaces.
Mhm.
Right.
Unless
The
you get a
older
variance.
structures were grandfathered in.
No,
Because there are houses
no.
with no
Right.
Right.
parking,
The
a
thing
lot of
that,
houses.
the thing that you have to remember is that the zoning ordinances that were imposed on the village are actually 1960s.
1967 or 68, something like that.
67, yeah.
That's why the code
And
update
back
is
then,
happening.
because, for example, what's the front
Ridiculous.
yard requirement? Something like 30 feet?
25, I think.
25 is the
no,
requirement.
it's-
10
yeah.
side yard, 25 front.
Which
We have it
would
there.
mean almost every house in the village
25
could be
foot,
built
yeah.
as it is.
No.
Yeah.
You have an illegal curb cut.
Everybody has an illegal everything. We all have illegal structures under the current code.
Yeah.
Which is why they're
Thank
constant,
God.
people are constantly, yeah, I mean, it would look like the middle of a suburb
Pleasant.
It
otherwise.
would look
Right.
like Constitution
Yeah.
Avenue. Constitution Drive. That's,
That-
that's
I have an
that
why.
illegal
complies.
curb cut that was made for a boat to sit on a front lawn.
Special.
She's just trash.
I'm gonna do it again. Bring it back.
Grandfather
That's
in the
actually in
It's
the code,
grandfathered
you
in.
can't keep a trailer.
Put my land
for
shark
more than
there.
10 days.
Oh, yeah, and I remember reading when we first got here that you can't have more than 2 boats on your front lawn. Not allowed. Just so
So
you
this
know.
Okay,
was the
so-
study that we did showing what would happen if you moved it to the middle of the block.
All right.
and what the-
So I guess, let's clarify, what is it that you're looking for from us at this time?
We want to start a dialogue about the architecture itself. We would like to see if you would be supportive of us keeping the structure where it is, because
Mhm.
that requires us to go for 2 variances that we
So
could
you probably need a
eliminate, but we
memo
don't
from-
want to eliminate. I mean, Sam, you should describe why you were involved in this, because, it's,
Oh, yeah,
that's
the
kind of
owner.
important. you know?
I'm just gonna be echoing what Clay and Paul have said, because that, they're working on the project through the context of the thing that I wanted to do, which was preserve this historic building as much as possible. The intent is as much as possible, and we could split hairs, but as much as we possibly can. And to me, what's important about the building is where it sits on the property, the proportion, the vertical siding, the pitch of the roof, and the way it looks as you come over that crest on Parsons. You see it, it's an anomaly sitting right there, and changing that, in my opinion, would be it'd be a huge loss for the community. Now, we're not gonna be able to salvage the building as it stands. We can do as much as we possibly can to get as close to that as possible, and that's what Clay and Paul have been explaining. So I think I can't imagine a scenario where we get closer
Yeah.
and make something that's livable and modern and, meets all the different code requirements and insulation, et cetera. So what we're proposing is actually more expensive, way more of a headache from a zoning perspective, but I think it's worth it. I think, and honestly, I'm not a real estate investor. I don't have a bunch of projects going on. It's just this one building spoke to me, and I wouldn't want to do it if I had to put it somewhere else.
Well, and you're not just preserving this structure largely can't be preserved. But by keeping it where it is, you preserve this entire streetscape and this story of this neighborhood and how it grew. And then you have this 19th century home, I think it's 19th century, and this is the auxiliary building.
Mhm.
And then across the street, after World War II, these houses were all built. So it tells a whole story of this changing neighborhood. And if this sat in the middle of the lot, it would look like a weird little infill house. It wouldn't read the way it was supposed to read. So I think you have a strong argument for.
I love that it's on one Sanborn map as a stable, and then
Yeah.
later on as a garage, you know,
Yeah.
transition through the years and
Yeah.
in its use, and
Yeah.
I think it's worth saving as it is, and it's not really worth moving. There's no reason to have a tiny little house in the middle of that lot.
Right, it sort of goes against the principle of dense urban living and,
Right.
you know, all of the things that tiny houses get couched in.
I'm thinking of James and Jody's house on Market, Curly Egan's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Their house, so this is another, you might take a look at it. So on Market Street, right across from Hudson Valley,
The kayak place.
the kayak place.
Next to the
Hudson
Blau House.
Expeditions, yes. There's a small house that was, I don't know, probably foundry worker housing. That's right on a sidewalk. So I would even approach.
And it was tiny, and the guy is about 6'5". You know, and he's probably beating his head up.
But
Wasn't his
that's
door,
a-
his door was
Yeah.
like 2 inches below code, or like
Yes.
6 inches
Yeah.
below code?
But that's a good example of
Tuck in
precedent
every day.
in your discussion
Usually
of how
normal.
people lived close and tight to the street. You know, there are plenty of elements around the village that you can refer to. But also, you're saving, what you're saving is an artifact of a time that's gone, right? When people kept horses in the back, kept a hayloft to feed the horses.
And one of the things about Sam that
Shared
you
an
know,
ice
and
box.
with
Shared
talking
an
about
ice
Sam,
box, right,
except
right.
for people that really know him, Sam is a big history buff, and he's super passionate about old school history stuff. So
You know what I see here? Potential board member one day.
he's he called me the other day from the library and was like, I found this great stuff about the house.
I've been going
he's,
through that.
You
he's
can go
he's into
to Carmel and go to, do you already live around here?
Yeah, I live in Garrison,
Oh,
but I'm on
so then
the,
you know, you can go to the town hall in Carmel and go
county
through the
courthouse.
Yeah, the county courthouse and go through the records.
Okay,
Can I make a design comment before they, because that's what they can say. I'm not unconvinced, I can be convinced, but one of the things that makes I don't know what it gives me some kind of reaction is the sort of stitching of the clapboard.
Siding.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the word siding, thank you, I'm tired.
Staggered joints.
The staggered joints. Although barns, especially after repair, barns have that. I can't remember, was this board and batten?
No.
Just
with,
board,
with
right?
a straight datum that's been.
That was a
there's
replacement
no-
anyway, right? It's not original.
No, they even in the main part of the barn they have like just straight runs and then they nail in another board.
So, I mean, I can see how you would say, look, this looks like a barn that's had repairs. I don't know, that's where my eye's settling right now. That's not very useful feedback, except that right now I'm distracted by the stitching.
We can play with that though. I mean, we can absolutely.
It feels very regular
Play
at the
with siding.
center.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. There's
Here. It
Right.
looks like it looks like an intended pattern right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, it should be either more irregular. Also, I think the width of the boards seems to be like too narrow.
I think we're at 5.5, but I can double check at what we modeled it at.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like 5.5 siding, right? The 6-inch board face.
yeah, just pretty much what was there before.
What's there now is even bigger.
Is it?
It's like 8-inch on the center kind of thing.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
I think,
kinda hard to
and I
get,
think if
actually.
you're talking barn, you're talking that wider siding.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, we could do that.
You know.
Okay, so I guess the issue that you're trying to get from us is really the question of location of the building, right?
Because I think that we can work through any of the architectural
Mhm.
detailing, things.
Design
I don't think
questions.
that that's
I mean,
a
it's
deal breaker.
new constructions. The, I would like to see, you know, this new plan. In other words, showing the relationship of the other structures on the street.
Okay. You don't
Just-
need drawn though, you like a Google map, Google Earth?
That's fine, yeah. In other
We
words,
don't have, the
in
problem
other
is we
words,
don't have
what
access
we're
to all
trying
the
to say
surveys.
is that, you know, this in this location is important. I just want to be able to show that.
Well, so what about the maps that Paul has done where he's overlaid the tax map on the historic map?
They don't have the structures on them.
No, but if you took
Didn't
Google,
one of them?
if you took Google
Has-
Earth and you
has-
just sort of
Yeah,
traced
we can
out,
outline it, that's not a
you
problem.
know, it's
Yeah.
simple.
As long as we're not doing
It's
some massive surveying project.
No, we're not talking about going, you know,
8
and
months.
going out there
8
with
months
lasers,
later.
shooting a thing with lasers and
We'll
stuff,
get you
but
some
you know.
interns from Columbia to come up.
We can do that, that's not a problem.
I mean, I think, you know, you're talking about the, you know, the streetscape, the rhythm of the buildings, the setbacks, you know, one compared to another. Because there is a great deal of variation on that part of Parsonage. The Boisvert's house, is much closer to the
It is
street.
close.
Judy's is further back. The house between them is also even, I think, even closer to the street. It goes,
Yeah, no, as Andrew pointed out, the one side of the street,
Yeah,
the
the
World
worker
War
housing.
II, that's
It's
straight
not
for
World War II.
Yeah.
Those
No,
are
those
like,
are worker
those are like
cottages.
1850s.
Oh, that's
Those
right,
aren't
those were the worker
1950s, those are
cottages.
That's what I
1850s.
thought too.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you've seen it too.
The other side has the
But the
end.
other side does definitely go in and out,
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
no, I mean, you know, the four corners on this, where Pine and Parsonage intersect,
Yeah.
those seem to be developed at the same time. There are two brick houses across the street from each other, which
And
are
they
kind of
go-
the anchors.
Yeah.
And they do establish a kind of a street plane, but then as soon as you're past the barn, it's gone on that side of
On
the
that
street.
side, yeah.
And then you've got the access of the roofs, you know, some of them are,
Yeah,
some of
that's
them
right.
are this way, some of them are that, you know, I mean, it's all over the place.
All right, so what is the, I guess, what's your schedule as far as the zoning board?
So we've applied for the next meeting, we haven't heard back yet, actually, to confirm that to us on the 21st. It'll be after Karen, I guess.
Somebody just resigned from the zoning board.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
No,
No.
that's the town board,
Oh,
town planning board, not village.
town planning board.
Anyway,
I thought it was-
Paul, your
Yeah.
schedule is?
So that's our next
No,
meeting. But
Grace
if you
Lowe,
could-
zoning board of
if you
appeals.
could,
The village board.
Grace.
Grace Lowe,
Grace,
zoning,
yeah, she's.
zoning board of appeals.
So if you could be, you know, if we know that you were supportive of us putting it in that location, that would be, I think.
I wonder if it isn't useful, so that they're not ping-ponging, to have a workshop session with the boards together.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that.
I
but
think
some-
it
there's
would
some-
save so much time.
Sometimes when you have complicated projects like this, it might be useful to have joint workshops.
Well, especially so that we can hear their perspective, they can hear ours, and we
Yeah,
can, yeah.
precisely,
Mhm.
precisely.
I think there might
Yeah.
be some groundwork that we need to do with the ZBA first,
Uh-huh.
and then it would be a good idea to get you two together.
Well, I mean, know
because-
that there's openness on this board to
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Mm.
And that, you know, that would be helpful to have that communicated by
I
you.
hope there's no,
to
I
the
hope there's no
ZBA.
time constraints on this though, because it's, you know, I think this is gonna take a while.
Well, you started this a year ago, right, Sam? A little more than a year ago?
You're ahead of schedule, so.
Yeah.
It's already been a
So,
while.
so Sam, what happened that it's almost the same as what you came in with the first time, except now it's imaged differently, it was drawings before. It seems as if you're pursuing the same proposal that you did before. What's changed that you're starting over again?
Well, the only thing on the plan that's changed is we've added a parking spot. But
Uh-huh.
the,
Cause you withdrew the last
we
application,
had
right?
withdrawn, as I was reconsidering my team.
Okay,
It did not seem, I felt like I needed to bolster my argument. So
okay,
put together
a different team,
well, added to the team
uh-huh,
and reapplied with a new approach.
okay.
Yeah, and better understanding of what you guys are.
And one of the things that's come out of that, which is what I I'm actually really glad that we've done this in this way, is the rigor that has been put into the historic study of this building, which we did not have in the first round, has really made me even more confident in why I'm doing it, and feel more passionately that it needs to be preserved. And before I was going in with a few assumptions that I'm glad got validated, and it's honestly been fun for me. I've been at the Putnam History Museum going through the books and photographs and looking for anything I can find, and so from an approach perspective, I feel like we've just got our ducks in a better row.
Got it. Cool.
Can the parking spots be tandem, or do they have to be side by side?
Sorry, say it again.
The parking spots, can it be two spots that are tandem?
In
I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
as long as you can park two vehicles on the property. That's the requirement.
So, but if that were the
That's
case,
that's
Sean, that's a good question.
Yeah,
That's a good question, because
You're
you
talking about
could, in
doing it
theory,
in a permeable material anyway, you don't have to use the spot.
Right.
right, if you were to use some sort of grow-through material, it could be an actual spot that could be a spot.
You can use that material like Sue was using
Yeah.
in part of her driveway, which is what Scenic Hudson used down at the foundry,
Right.
which is already, it's already breaking up there, but, you know.
But we're talking about it being permeable anyway. right?
There's also the concrete type of that, and there's one of them, behind Anthony Phillips' house on Main Street, the next house on,
Yeah,
It's
on
also,
Fish
they use
Pond.
a dye beacon, right, at the
Yeah,
front
that's right.
Yeah.
entry into the beacon,
Exactly.
where you.
but I think Sean's point is you could, if you were pressed and you couldn't get a variance for
I
one
mean,
lot,
if it
one
was,
spot,
you
you
know,
could.
extra spot and you keep the building where you
Well,
want
we
to.
would much
Right.
rather, I think, relinquish exactly the parking than that. But I think the parking is relatively straightforward, actually, so.
Yeah. I mean, I would
Good idea.
advocate that from our historical perspective, it makes more sense to have one spot or no spot, but
We went, I mean, last round with the ZBA, we went back and forth, reapplied started with no spot, reapplied with one spot, then took it off again. And this time we came in with the one spot and thought less is better in terms of variances.
Something to think about that you'll need to also take up with them, if Grace is resigning, the chairman now lives here.
Right there.
He, in the last meeting, he recused himself.
So you're
does he
down to
live?
3 members right
That's
here.
right.
He bought the house that,
Maya?
Oh,
Yeah.
Maya's on.
He bought Maya's house.
yeah, so with, until someone else is reappointed, you're at a bare quorum, which means it has to be a unanimous vote. So, just throwing that out there.
Unless he
Yeah,
recuses
thank you
himself.
very
He did recuse himself, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's what I'm saying, that's why they have a bare quorum right now until somebody else is appointed for Grace.
got it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
It's nice to meet you,
Staying
Clyde.
late. Nice to meet you as well. Pleasure.
Thanks
Are you
for,
driving
thanks
back
for
to
sticking with
Southwick?
us.
I'm gonna jump on a train back to the
Oh.
city, gonna crash to the city, and then head back out there tomorrow. So,
Well,
good times.
pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Absolutely.
This one we're set. Actually, if there's multiples, can I
There are
keep this one?
multiples, yeah.
We have
Everyone's having trouble with language tonight.
I was
Having a
like,
stroke.
I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't know the order that I had to say it in.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
Take care,
Okay.
bye.
See
The
ya.
fourth Thursday of the month is Thanksgiving.
Ah.
That's okay.
Oh.
Fourth Wednesday
Okay.
is the 27th. So, I don't know did we have any workshop
No,
requests that we
God,
received?
not, this was the only one. So are we done with 20 the Boulevard then? They've got what they need and,
I sent them the email, and she asked me about, well, you know, they made some changes, and I said, as far as I can tell, it looks the same, so I'm not gonna send you anything else.
okay.
I mean, it sounds to me like Tesla will not move forward with an installation unless they have the acknowledgement of the.
Well, they do, they have an email from them.
Right, but, so,
But it's from our end, we've done what we need to do is the point.
don't we think we need to do?
I wonder why
Find out
Tesla
if
is,
it's
I
insufficient.
wonder why Tesla is insisting on that.
Because it's
Probably because they're dealing with
Quality is
control.
crazy.
people, I would,
Or is it that they wanna use this as a promotional thing and say, this was a thing that was approved by a historic district board
I would
you know,
assume
in
that
fussy
given
Hudson
the
Valley?
cost,
And
they are
maybe they got
probably
a
dealing
discount
with
for it or
much
something, I
more
don't know.
litigious communities than
Yeah.
ours.
All right, how about
Let
minutes?
the
Well,
record
wait,
show.
so Sean's point was no workshop this
We
month?
don't need a workshop for
But
it.
if we could do a design standards workshop, that'd be awesome.
So I know I've sent these around before, but if you just need to review it to refresh your memory.
I have not, I'm still not caught up in reading, I'm sorry.
Okay, well.
This is the one you sent today?
No,
No, the one you sent today, we
these,
were
okay,
both
so
absent
to go,
for, so.
to go through, so here's 10-9. Okay, hold on. Okay, here's 10-9.
Right?
These were minutes that were tabled because, I think we didn't have quorum to vote on them a couple of times. Let me just check my notes.
Right,
Hold on.
cause this one was,
'Cause we're all here this time, so I'm hoping I can get some of these out of here.
10-9 we couldn't do because
Right.
Kathleen and
Well,
Carolyn.
Yeah.
I was not here on.
9/11 was tabled,
9/11 I was not
7/24
here.
was also tabled. I think that was a really straightforward one. Yeah, that was just a workshop,
But we didn't have enough people.
but we didn't have enough
No,
people.
I was absent from 9/11, so,
Oh, okay.
so were you.
So
I was
10-9,
here, members
No,
present,
not
Kathleen
you,
Fuller.
I'm talking about Al.
10-9, 9/11, and 7/24. We should be able to vote on all of those.
Yes, I'll go run and make some copies of 7/24 because this is really short. It was just a workshop.
And 8/14 is me, I owe you 8/14.
Okay.
That one we can vote on.
So Sean, are you, I got a little lost, are you guys gonna be voting on these 4 minutes, or you're just talking about them?
We're gonna, I think we can vote on them.
We should have the kind of configured, well, yeah, we're
Yeah,
all
we
here
do,
tonight.
'cause we're all
yeah.
here.
Okay.
It's very strange not to have you get up for a cigarette when we broke for public.
I know, I was gonna say, that I normally go out for a cigarette, but
Maybe we can install a dark hoop in the building. We'll put a basketball hoop in.
yeah.
Four.
This-
Oh,
That is
Carolyn,
not-
never mind.
there's
You were
nothing-
absent for that.
I was absent
And
from
so was
that
I.
one,
New
too.
So I'm not
construction,
voting on that.
realistically, you know,
Okay, so,
I mean, we've been down this road before, oh, we're gonna save this,
Al,
we're
you were
gonna
here
save
for
that.
this. That was just a workshop, but I
None
was
of
not
it
there,
ever
and
saved.
Carolyn wasn't.
It always gets modified because the contractor took
Yeah,
a
this
look
was the
at it and
signage.
said, this and that.
I think the differences in their case, they are, I mean, yes, I agree. Even if they went in there and said the entire thing needs to be rebuilt in steel, it wouldn't affect our approval one way or the other.
Use of wood versus metal posts. Whichever choice is made should be consistent. Didn't they agree to go to wood
This was
posts?
just this is from the workshop, not from when we voted.
By the way, now that this,
Yeah.
this 124 little rampy thing is done, there's nobody getting up that in a wheelchair. It's like,
Oh, no, I know. When we were on, well, when was it? We discussed it at one point, they said that they couldn't get ADA clearance with the
Oh, that
amount
was,
of space
sorry,
that they had
I
anyway.
missed that one, okay.
Well, this is 124 Main?
So did the railing change?
The
Back to being open in the
railing-
front?
Yeah, so the railing is just gonna go the whole width of the front. They still want that to be the entrance pad, the little kind of landing pad,
Okay.
but it's not for ADA. I mean, you can barely get a rolling suitcase up it.
Yeah.
But we didn't even talk about that, when they were here last week. Can the voting commence?
I'm editing.
Oh,
Sean.
sorry.
I have another one for 5-8 that needs a vote still. Kathleen was absent. Should I make copies of this? I mean, I sent these all around in emails.
5-8.
Yeah. It just kept getting tabled and tabled, I don't know why.
Needs a vote.
Well, so I'm not sure that this is entirely accurate now. No, not because of you, but because of what came after it. Because when Jimmy came in this time, the architect was saying, oh no, I've checked the slope, it doesn't have to be raised.
You're looking at what?
I'm looking at 9/11.
9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time, I sent you all photos, and you said, well, oh, and you said to him, actually, the roof has been raised. Oh,
Right.
yeah, that's why it didn't need to be, he didn't think he needed to change the pitch, because the pitch had already been changed before he came on the project. This makes it sound as if he was gonna take it down, which is, I think what we probably understood in that session. He was gonna take
Yeah,
it
the
down
alternatives,
to the original roof line.
Right, no,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And that's what he showed on those, on the drawing.
On the drawings, yeah, okay. Yeah, once demo is complete. Okay.
Do you have this? I think this is one of the ones that you sent me,
Yeah, that's already been, that was approved by.
I know, but I
Oh,
just,
710, no, yes, okay, so I said to you, I had a question, I didn't understand what your notes were trying to get at.
well, for
Something
example,
about
this one over
item
here, all of
one.
a sudden, this, out of nowhere, applicant proposed an aluminum fence. So-
Hold on, let me, I have to look at my notes, these are
And
so
then this one that
screwed up.
says, approve the application is modified, and we don't say how it was modified.
No, that was as annotated, I fixed that today.
Okay.
I went back and looked at my notes, I should have said as annotated, not as modified, it was annotated. So your question is about this, let me see,
Yeah, because,
alright,
Look, can you just read it?
okay, so what is that?
224 Main Street.
I'm looking at my notes.
So, this is Hoffman, and,
Yeah, that was the
next
fence to go around his garden,
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
fence to go in the garden.
it's not random.
well, all right. Because it was, Sean Conway made a motion to approve the application for the shed and fence as submitted.
Yes,
And it was, seconded and
Right.
passed. So then what's
There was
this?
I think it's just in the wrong order, I think it's just that line
I
got,
might have been, I don't know, cutting and pasting, there's so much crap moving around in this place.
I think it probably just, this line, the
That
applicant
should go
proposed
up
should
there.
just go
No,
up
that
into
should-
content,
We
yeah.
did it, there's a secret vote, okay. No, this should just be up here. I was just moving stuff around. And motion to approve. Yeah, the call, okay, I'll just move that, and I'll send it back to you.
You're
Again.
writing a Magna Carta, I think?
They're important details.
Okay. I'll make a note to tell myself to resend.
Okay. I was absent. What's that?
Okay. I'll do this.
Oh, this is 10:09. Is this the one that you sent today? Or did you send 10?
No,
10:23
I've sent
is what you
all of these minutes of
Yeah,
this.
she-
No, that's what I thought. 10:23
Yeah.
is what you sent today, right?
10-9 has been edited and it needs a vote. In other words, whatever edits were submitted to me from
Right, she
members of this
input
board,
them.
I've made them,
Okay.
so, last chance on that. 5-8, I also need a vote on. I don't know why this has been tabled so many times, but it has.
And which one is 5A?
5-8, this one, do you want me to make copies?
No, just pass me that one.
Okay.
410, hasn't that been signed off already?
Yes, I sent that to you. In a batch of other things, but.
I know, but I guess the question is that,
Wait, you
Okay.
have that in front of you?
well, and I pulled this out of my briefcase, and so I've
Oh.
got
Why did I?
5 pages, and this was,
Don't
this
confuse
was
me.
the Aaron Wolf discussion.
Okay, was I there?
No, yeah, here.
Oh, I was.
Does the barn have historic value or material that ought to be preserved? Does the location of the barn have historic value that ought to be preserved? The applicant's lawyer represented that the HDRB stated that the barn is more or less historically not a factor. Is that
We
correct?
responded to that. We responded to that memo.
I
To
don't
those
think we did,
proposals. We
because
did.
Yeah, we did.
if I remember correctly, what you responded is that,
I was quoting the email.
yeah, HDRB consensus is not to issue any comment until a formal application is made.
Yes, but we did respond to his email saying that is not a fair representation of the conversation with this board.
You're
On the
talking
part of
about
Mr. Hilbert.
The applicant's lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Has
are,
that been signed off?
I mailed it to you. I emailed it to you, that's why I did not have it watermarked.
With a stamp.
Yeah, I know. That one, I was throwing off your game. I put it in the mail.
Okay.
Everything else
Well,
is.
let me,
So,
let me-
are we gonna vote on 10:23
Can
too?
we please vote on something, because these
Yes,
are
I just need a minute to read this, sorry.
It's just really getting confusing.
Or are we gonna not do, 10:23 is the one that was sent today, which I'm,
Yeah, forget about that, because
Okay.
I sent that this afternoon.
okay,
But I just want to get it out there so you guys could read it, and maybe we can vote on it at the next
Okay.
voting session.
6:12.
6:12, I made all your edits.
This is a secret.
I put that in there.
Okay,
I
well,
emailed
this is
that
the
to
old
you.
one. This is,
I
this
just
is
throw it
mine.
away, because that's in, yeah.
Okay.
this is like the worst.
Yeah, imagine being
Buddy.
the one person who has to go through
No, I
all
was gonna say,
this
this is the worst
crap
buddy comedy ever. That's you and Al.
in the minutes.
10:23.
Throw it
This
away.
is, this is last, the last.
The young rookie of the chief, trying to get the minutes passed.
Okay. And so this is the one from last session that we had. This is what you sent out today.
Today. And then just to you, I sent 6:12, that's all fixed.
6:12, all fixed.
Yeah, and the 7:10 or whatever the heck the other one was. Now I know what you're talking about, and I'm going to make a 7:10. Yeah, I'm gonna make those edits and send it to you. But if you search your inbox for minutes to post from me, I always use that in the subject line, you'll see everything I've.
Okay, I have a number of corrections on 724 and 911.
Okay.
I'll give them to you in spirit, and then you can see them. It was just making more clear on 724, why we had said no to the signage on the upper portion of the building.
Okay.
And then on the 911, I just had clarifying.
Oh, okay, yeah, I wasn't there for the 724 meeting, so that's why, like, I couldn't do much with those minutes. I wasn't there.
Oh, so I just did it.
Yeah,
You're good.
yeah, I'll just, can you hand me that?
Yeah,
so I
totally.
don't get confused? Thanks, okay.
And this is 5.8, I made a
Thank
couple
you.
of tiny changes there.
Thank you.
The one thing that I wanna make sure
Actually,
gets
5A.
clear on the 911 minutes is that 207 Main Street, the discussion of the windows. The applicant, we had said that we did not see them, have not yet seen those windows in a residential application. The applicant's architect said that he would provide further information,
That was James.
yeah, of their installation in
Right.
New York City districts. So
Uh-huh.
I just
Added that.
just
Okay.
clarified that a little
Okay.
bit. And then why we pulled out the crawl space, stating that because it has limited visibility. Okay, so those are my changes to that, to the 911 set.
Okay, wait, hold on a sec. What are we looking at, 5.8?
Mhm.
Hold on, let me look at my notes, I can probably fix that right now, because it's probably as annotated, it's been happened before.
You want a
I
watercolor?
thought
I need
we
to-
had,
You what?
for some reason,
You want
I remember
a watercolor?
this
And I want,
as
you know, the
being
drawing that Jan Thatcher's mother painted
signed.
of the waterfront.
Let me
And
just
it's the old
refresh my
waterfront
memory here.
with the
This is
color
fine.
down.
Well, this is a signage,
It's an old.
And
installation
it's
of
low.
vinyl,
Yeah, but is it an old?
I would say
92
vinyl
Main, what
window
is that?
Years
signage.
ago?
90
What
Main's
time is it?
Kismet.
Oh.
So I donated it to Village Hall.
It's 92 Main Street, which is,
It's funny, it's very, it's.
is that
That's an
that
house. I forget
Judy's
how much lower
project
it was
down?
than the other
I
building.
know. it
No,
was
it's
because
5.
it used to come.
92 is Kismet, isn't it?
No, was it the,
And Actually,
was
at
it
that
the,
time-
coffee shop?
people who are friends of mine now.
What's,
the wife actually was
Well,
there.
it's an
No,
installation of
that's-
vinyl
but I didn't know
sign,
who
of
that
vinyl
was.
signage.
And.
And
used to
the
walk
question
in
was,
on
is,
the sidewalk
you
directly
again,
to the
and that's,
park at that
he's
height.
the
I
one
mean,
that's
maybe it was
causing the
one
problem.
step up
Me? What did I
Yes.
say?
They
We
raised
made
the whole
a motion to approve the application as
Apparently
amended.
because of
I
flooding,
think it's
it
being
was before
recorded
all the flood laws
correctly.
were in place.
Let me
As
just
they
look
had
and
to
see
do
what,
today,
who
that
92
there is
Main
a
Street
way
is.
higher.
Oh, it is, you're right, it is the coffee shop.
Okay, so it's the coffee shop. I'm just gonna write that down.
What did I say?
I remember he wanted a big vinyl decal, one on each window, and then two smaller ones on the doors.
And then he
And,
cut it down to less than that.
And he wanted the sign hanging
oh,
above.
and he wanted the hanging sign, which he
He with-
decided not to do.
What he wanted was the sign above, hanging
Yeah,
above,
hang
and then
above.
on the door, smaller ones on the
On the
doors.
door, yeah.
And he
He pulled the
pitched
hanging
the hanging
sign.
one and pitched the ones on the
Right.
doors and instead went for the big ones on the windows.
Exactly. So it would have been
So that's how it would have been.
as amended.
All right, so then we need to describe what changes were.
Okay.
Okay. He pulled the hanging sign, so applicant.
Well,
pulled-
or, you know, it could just say,
Withdrew,
withdrew certain portions of the signage and,
proceeded with
right.
applied vinyl window signs.
There you go.
What do you call that? Blade sign?
Yeah. You want red? No, you've got red.
That's fine.
think I'd rather sleep here than go out in the cold. When's the temperature supposed to break?
Tomorrow.
What?
Tomorrow's gonna get warmer?
It's just like a polar vortex thing.
Polar vortex.
I think it's called something else, but it's same.
Polar bomb.
Polar bomb. Alright, good. Well, thanks for sitting here and just getting
It's
this
no
done.
problem, it's
It is
easier to do it when we're together.
piling up and we have everyone
So
here.
can we vote on these that we just edited?
Yes, please,
Carolyn will
because
be
I know
back
it
in a
needs to be
second.
changed. I think Carolyn was still looking at.
She handed back to you,
Yeah.
I'm,
10-9.
who's, let me see.
There's a
Yeah.
couple she wasn't here for, so she may not even, we might have this all done when she gets it, back to the table. Alright, so we can vote on 5-8,
I think that I read this already.
7-24, 9-11,
I'll read this real quick.
7-10, oh, that was
Did you
between.
read 10-19?
10-9.
10-9, I mean?
10-9,
Yes, and I had no changes to it.
I'm
good.
just gonna, I'm gonna look at the 124 one.
Would anyone else like a copy of 10-9? I have one here in front of me.
There's a bunch over here.
Yeah.
I was absent, so not me.
I was here for all of them, so I will make motions.
Alright,
Would I do this one? Okay. I would like to make a motion.
wait, are we doing 10-9? 10-9 needs a
Shoot.
vote.
We need to do them individually because there's not everybody for everybody.
No, I know,
else
but
for
everyone
everyone.
submitted their comments.
No, Kathleen is still commenting on 10-9.
It's, I want 124 to be right. And
Okay, but we can start voting on these is what you're saying, and then once Kathleen wraps up that last
Yeah,
one?
yes.
Okay, good. Okay, wait, I gotta shut
So
myself up.
which one do you want us to vote on?
5-8, I make a motion to approve the minutes for May 8th as amended.
I will,
You
I can second that.
You can second that.
Can I take a quick look?
This is what we just said,
Oh,
about the sign thing.
no, that's it. Okay.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah,
All
that's
in
the first-
favor except Kathleen.
Aye, in favor.
You can't,
Oh,
you weren't
okay.
there.
I abstain.
5-8, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Alright.
Aye.
Okay, yay.
I move to accept, the minutes from 7:27,
24.
7:24, sorry, as submitted. Carolyn and Andrea were both absent.
Yay.
I move to accept them.
I second.
You were
All-
absent.
You
No,
and Andrea.
You were absent.
Oh,
I was
oh,
there.
oh, oh.
All
Oh,
in favor, please say aye.
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 I'll say aye anyway. You're just being agreeable.
Okay.
Good.
On the matter of the minutes from 9/11, did,
I edited them.
okay, as, edited, as amended,
I will move to accept them as amended.
I will second that motion. Al and Carolyn were not here. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, hold on one sec, I gotta write this down.
I'm ready to present you.
Are you putting the dates that the vote was taken?
Sure. What's that?
Well,
I'm-
I'm writing it in the,
Okay, well, the only thing is that, you know, when I sign these minutes, I need to sign them as.
I know, that's why I've been doing a better job of telling you exactly when in the email.
You also maybe, you had some setbacks, maybe
Yeah.
you're behind.
Okay, wait, these are, oh,
No,
okay, these.
no, as a matter of
I
fact.
could have said it's okay if you are
I'm
behind.
current as
Let's
of,
do 7:24.
We just did some.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, sorry, I wrote it on
You gave me
this
yours,
one.
here, you take that, I don't want that, I want these are mine. Okay, we should do 7:10.
7:10.
7:10?
7:10. 19.
We were all here for this. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just this funny thing with the house.
That's the only thing, moving that where it belongs.
Okay, so,
But that was already approved. Because you had sent
Oh,
it.
I'm so sorry, yeah, that's been approved,
Right.
yeah, see, the watermark is gone, that was just between me and Al, okay, not 7:10, not 7:10. I have to look
Okay.
at my notes, I'm getting all screwed up, okay.
Kathleen, are you still working on 10:9?
I am working on 10:9.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll take a brief pause.
Voted,
Yeah, so we got 5/8,
voted, 10:23,
10:23, that,
and then Kathleen,
10:23 is what you just said.
yeah, okay.
I think 40 Paulding. Oh, it's Thomas Ambrose.
Yeah, windows. Cat named Katie.
Yes.
Cat and Kate.
That's the cat's
Town
name.
Ambrose's cat.
And Kate.
Okay, so I move to accept the minutes of the 10/9/19 meeting as modified.
I second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we're caught up, right?
Yes.
Woohoo!
except for
Mercifully.
10:23,
And
which we
because that just
got.
came out, yeah.
And one that I owe to, which is,
Kathleen, you said accept as modified?
As modified, yep. As amended or whatever.
I already wrote it down.
Oh.
Thanks.
Um,
Bother.
you can vote on that one because you weren't there.
On which one?
Let me just say, not,
Oh, you weren't there.
He abstained.
You-
He
you
abstained.
didn't
vote.
He abstained.
Okay.
Okay, so does Al know your happy news?
Al
Yes.
knows my happy news.
Okay. So my inclination would be to squeeze as much out of his brain as possible before January and try to
Before
try to
you're
finish
really
branded.
try to finish the complete the remaining portions of the design standards, which at this point is largely Windows
I have to write an intro for A to Z.
and A to Z intro.
Yeah, that's no
So
big deal.
I'm wondering if we can schedule a
Maintenance thing.
bunch of workshops to try to really push through and get the bulk of the work done before Sean heads out for
I can meet on the
family
17th,
leave.
the 20th, and the 24th. That's 2 Sundays and a Wednesday.
I can do all of those. We're talking about November, right?
17th is a Sunday? Yeah.
What time?
What time?
Yeah.
The 17th is this Sunday.
Yes. And the 20th is a Wednesday,
The 20th is a Wednesday.
and the 24th is a Sunday.
I'm sorry, okay, what are we talking about?
And what times are we talking about on Sundays?
I could do, I have a kid with a soccer game at 12:30. I could do 10 to 12.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, I'm sorry, what day is it?
17th?
November 17th?
Mm-hmm.
10 to 12?
And what is our goal for that session? Windows?
Well, do we have a summary of where we are?
Yeah, I
An
thought
update.
we did Windows.
I thought I was still outstanding, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm working on the design section, the style section right now.
I sent Windows around.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
But I
Yeah.
think we did it, cause weren't we having that conversation about what a picture frame casing was?
I thought that was part of an application that we had that discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll all have to figure it out.
Okay, well, I'll figure it out.
Well, I think that's the first thing that we do is figure it out.
Figure out where we left off.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
maybe we don't need to come together on a Sunday morning to figure it out. Maybe we're not ready to meet on Sunday morning. Maybe
Well,
it's better to do the
Well,
20th.
why don't we do Sunday morning to figure out where we are and what still needs to be done?
Okay,
Just that way we're all,
on the
Yeah,
same page.
I don't know if I have the most up-to-date version of what we've done.
Okay, so that's my job, is to email the most up to date.
Yeah, I think mine says 4/7/19 on it, so I think this is pretty.
So what time did you agree on for the 17th?
10 to 12.
so we'll do 10 to 12 on the 17th, and should we do 8 to 10 on the 20th?
Sure.
And then 10 to 12 again on the 24th, and we'll see where we are
Is everybody in town? Wait, oh no, Thanksgiving's the week after.
the week after.
If-
Well, I don't
could
know,
we
are you
do-
around, or are you leaving early?
Could we do
Hold
11
on,
to 1?
You're talking about 11:24.
Mhm.
I can't do that day because Isla's has some chorus
Stuff.
performance thing that morning.
I could do afternoon
Do you want to
too.
do the afternoon, or do you want to just
Afternoon is good.
10:24? I could
You
do.
have to be like,
Oh, actually, yeah, let's do the afternoon, because I think people are going to be making candles in my house.
2 to 4, 4 to 6. 4 to 6 is dinner.
2 to 4.
yeah, 2 to 4 would be
If
way
it
better.
gets dark, then I'm gonna.
Yeah. Open your wrist.
Okay.
So that gets us 3
So
sessions
that's
in
6
November.
hours.
And then we'll see where we are for December.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3
this-
sessions, hold on,
Yeah, what 3 sessions?
17th,
11,
20th, and
17.
24th.
20th.
It's a Wednesday.
What time are we meeting on the 20th?
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Unless Al wants to go 7 to 9, which would be awesome.
Sure as heck would.
Well, I guess we could also determine what it is that we need
We could
when
fall back.
what
We
it
could
is that we're
determine what we
going
need to
to
work
be
on.
reviewing, Al, and then once you know what the agenda is, you may decide that you don't want to be here for the first hour of it.
We can talk about it on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In December, we also are not gonna have a Wednesday available.
Because it's Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if we wanna hold like the 18th
As
as
a
a
workshop?
potential workshop, if we get applications.
Sure.
I don't know what we're gonna do.
That close to the holidays, I get.
I
We
can't
won't get
imagine there
many.
will be
I
any,
can't tell,
but
get anything.
But we can use it as a design standards time
Yeah.
if we need it.
And the 18th is a Wednesday?
Yep.
yeah,
Which date was this again?
12/18.
12/18.
as a potential workshop if needed.
Who knows, maybe Sam will be ready to come back. Okay, cool.
Maybe, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
The other 2 items are the fees proposal. Do we need to talk about that tonight?
No, because I'm not done, and the
Let's
last
see.
time we did fees was in 2015,
Marie asked us to look at
and
escrow and
update,
fees again.
yeah, well, except I have nothing on escrow, 0 on escrow, and I told her I was not going to do escrow. Simply because we probably won't be using escrow again, because we probably won't be doing another EAF in our lifetime. Since they changed the secret law
Right.
past January, and.
So in other words, what is written for planning and zoning should be sufficient to cover us.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
well, what's written for planning and zoning on escrow should be sufficient to cover us. On the fees, however, we did discuss internally, even
Yeah.
before she asked us, do we wanna raise fees? Do we wanna have different tiers of fees for different types of things? Do we wanna have additional fees for people coming back 10 different times on the same thing? What I've been doing is I've been looking at different communities than I looked at in 2015, a lot of which were further upstate, but we're all CLGs. And this time I'm trying to look at more communities that have historic districts, and especially national districts, that are within some proximity to us, so that they're sort of more geographically and like in the same economic system, more or less. And so I've been looking in basically at the historic districts in
That's valid.
Westchester, Rockland, Orange,
Putnam,
Dutchess,
24.
and Putnam.
Uh,
And I've done
2 to 4.
7 so far, I've done 4
2 to 4.
villages, 3
Okay.
cities, five villages, 2 cities, Newburgh and,
So you're
Beacon.
putting it together a proposal is the point.
I'm putting it together, but the problem is that it's all apples and oranges, because some have independent boards like we do, and so they have their own application process and their own fees. Sometimes the fee is only paid to the building department, sometimes it's a building department fee and a plan, and a lot of these historic district boards and architectural review boards are actually part of the planning board.
Right.
You know, they're like an additional function, or that the planning board members are also the ARB members and things like that. And so their fees are combined, and they don't list every single thing they do necessarily. Some of them do, and some of them don't. And like the building departments usually have very finely broken down fees, like for this and that and the other thing, but the planning boards, and they'll say site plan review, you know, and buildings, you know.
So you need to make it something
See,
that fits us.
Yeah, well, no, also it's because even taking them all together and laying them all out, it's apples and oranges all over the place, you know, so it's,
So you're working on it.
that's what I'm working on.
An
yeah.
update on the building
I'm
inspector.
trying to get it done so that we can have it, that we can look at it at least once before I send it to Marie, and she wants to take it to the December 3rd reorganization meeting, but I don't even know if I'm gonna get it done by then.
But even with all of the kind of nuance of what you're seeing, are we talking about fees that are
Substantially higher than ours. Yes.
substantially higher
Yes.
across the
New-
board?
Newburgh, Beacon, Fishkill, Wappingers,
They're all
Warwick,
like 75, 80.
150.
Gosh,
Oh yeah, but 150 is like for something big, okay? But yeah, but there are
Okay.
there's $100 fees in there. Ossining, I think those are the ones that I did.
What are we, 35?
Did
We're
I
still
do
35?
Goshen?
Yeah.
I might have done Goshen
You
too.
making
Yeah, I
it?
did Goshen.
so an update on the building inspector, Dave had a second round interview with someone today. I don't know what details other than there are candidates he's moving forward to rehire our own building inspector again.
Our
Is
own
this a
building
full-time or a
inspector, or is
part-time?
this gonna be somebody, an assistant to the
No,
town?
our own building inspector again,
A full-time or part-time?
20 hours a week.
Well, part-time, okay. Well, that's what.
And they're
that's
looking
what-
at-
yeah.
Looking at all sorts of different configurations, like 4 hours a day, every day. Or, looking at flexible hours, if there's this week is very busy and next week isn't, piling on the bunching time in ways that make sense for the workload.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
1 day a week, like in the afternoon, was not working because you could only check in with the building inspector in that
Right.
tiny
So I think-
window, and then it became an excuse.
Right,
It's
among
not
the
just the
goals is
file work.
consistent
Yeah.
time
Yeah,
and consistent service, and they're also they're also considering how fire inspections play into that as well. So
that's smart,
it's moving forward is the point, we're
That's great.
breaking away again.
really, really good.
I'm too exhausted to talk about it tonight, but we are now in almost to December, and we've talked many times about establishment of preservation recognition awards.
Mhm.
And I would love to be able to do that in the early part of the year, to maybe when we all come back together again,
Mhm.
set a few minutes aside to talk about broad categories.
Yeah.
Recognizing people who've done exceptional work in
Yeah.
different categories in the village, in the district.
Mhm.
And not monetary, obviously, not just, therefore,
The only thing as far as the fees go,
Oh.
we do, well, it just, because it goes back to the monetary issue. We have a lot of things like fences and, signage. Should we have a step down based
that's one of
on-
the things we talked about in the
That's
fall.
one of the things we talked about. Yeah, there's, basically for entirely new construction or additions, it's typically the top dollar stuff. But then it steps down usually for things like signage and fencing, specifically those two.
Makes sense.
There's one community, I can't remember which one it was, has a consent calendar thing where they have listed those really minor items where it's almost like doing, repairs and maintenance in kind, but not quite. You're replacing your windows, but you're replacing them in the same size and same design, even though it might be a slightly different material, it's a modern material and it's double or triple glazed or something like that. But as long, you know, there's like one person, like the chairman or somebody, can just do a sign off on it, or,
Staff review.
or, well, since we have no staff.
Right, if there
Yeah.
were a staff.
But they kind of batch them and just, you know, knock them out, rather than have, you know, and they're like a $10 application fee or something like that. But the problem with that is it gets into that area in SECR, which even though we're not doing SECR really anymore, not at least the type ones, almost everything we do is type 2. The thing about, do we actually take discretionary action, or are we simply
Right.
ministerial and we're just checking boxes? And I don't wanna get into a situation where we're checking boxes. I always wanna have that flexibility that we actually review things. So I don't think I'd wanna go the consent calendar route, even
Well-
though that would lighten the load tremendously.
It would lighten the load, but I think we see often that folks come in with an application not really knowing what it is
Yeah.
the project
Mhm.
entails, even
Yeah.
if it's a simple project. And we end up working through a lot of solutions in ways that are helpful to the applicant.
Even sometimes with windows, it's a, you know, it can be something, it's not that simple.
Right.
Particularly if they wanna bring in, a new manufacturer, new material that we haven't seen before.
Or
Also,
change the
windows
bunsen
are
pads.
such a like critical part of a facade or just any mass of the building. And a lot of times we've seen like with the Hoffman House, I mean, you know, there was just a sliver of difference in the opening once they pulled those old windows out. And I think like if we had somebody, you know, just checking off, you know, Anderson 400 series windows over and over again, like they may not catch that, and I think we're really good at catching those things, and that makes
Yeah.
a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
No,
those
I
hideous windows
agree,
at
I agree.
Butterfield.
Does anybody distinguish between commercial and residential applications?
Yes, they do. Oh, big time, big time.
I think that would probably be the only really appropriate, like, given the buildings that we're looking at and the range of projects, I feel like if we were gonna do a 2-tiered application, that would be where I would wanna
Yeah.
stick it.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Can you
And only
clarify
one
what you
community,
mean?
only one
Two-tiered in
community.
pri- terms of price? Sorry.
Yeah, if it was gonna be a price, you know, if
The
if the fee for a residential building stayed at 35 or went up to 40 or something, and the fee for a commercial building was 50 or 60, I feel like that's
Yeah,
a fair
Be-
way of
yeah.
splitting it, because,
That's true. Cause they write it off.
yeah, I mean, it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah. Only one community actually charges extra for public hearing, that I found, out of the 7 that I did of the local group.
Well, if you're charging $150 for an application, you can throw in a public hearing, I guess.
Yeah, what do we do? We charge 80 for a public hearing or something like that?
So Marie needs this, 80 for a public hearing. Marie needs this on the 3rd.
Apparently the reorganization meeting's on the 3rd, she would like to present it at that time, because they wanna establish a fee schedule for everything in the village. They wanna have a comprehensive
Oh, right,
fee
because
schedule.
the whole cycle moved back with the moving of the election.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
Could we
Uh,
look at the, yes, sir?
Well, I mean, we do have these meetings concerning the design standards so that we can at least discuss it. I don't know if we can vote on
I
it.
don't know if we need to vote on it, because ultimately
not
it's
up to us
something
all.
that
That's
the
not up to
village
us
board
anyway,
votes
yeah,
on
the
it. You know, we can make recommendations, you know, we don't have to vote on the recommendation, we can just agree on it.
All right, so
So
let's.
could we look at it on the 24th? Do you think by then you could
Oh,
have
yeah,
a?
I think by then, you know, and I wanted to put it into like an Excel format so that you can compare the one, you know, to make a
That's
judgment,
awesome.
Thank you.
which is what I did the last
So
time.
let's do it on the 24th.
Okay.
Right on. Motion to adjourn? I so move.
Wait, one other thing, Marie had asked about the sign.
Oh, yeah, I didn't quite understand that question.
Well, if I remember correctly, what she said is that evidently under I forget exactly what she's
Let's
talking.
pull up the email.
All right, it's, a sign, on a residential property is exempt
From what?
from,
Hang on, let's get the actual email in front of us and know what we're talking about.
Any approvals. But it's, I think it's, less than 2 by 2 or whatever it is.
Well, in our new design guidelines, we talk about, like, doctors and attorneys' signs on residential buildings, but I can't remember if that was in the old.
I think it is, it's way the heck in the
Well,
back of
we
the.
spent a lot of time thinking about it, and so I wanna make sure that before we, walk away from it, we've had an opportunity
Is
to
this
share our thinking. I'm trying to find it.
Is this a code update question, or is this an actual case?
It's a code update question.
Oh,
Where was it? She sent it to me. Maybe she sent it on my personal email address and I'm not seeing it. Chapter 104, signs and placards. The CUC's version of Chapter 104 states that one sign per property less than 4 square feet in R1 and R3 districts do not require a permit. Is this acceptable to the HDRB?
4 square feet?
I say, what kind of signs are we talking about? Commercial properties in residential districts. Commercial properties in residential districts, question marks? And she says, any sign on any property in the R1 or R3. I think that we need to show them the draft that we've been working on to say, hang on, this has been our discussion.
Well, what does our draft say? I mean,
It's
I
so
don't
much detail to
exactly
go into
remember,
tonight,
but
but it's like,
yeah.
remember we talked about lots of different scenarios with signs that were in the ground, signs that hung from the building, signs
signs
that,
next to the buzzer.
yeah.
all right, but the thing is that the answer to her question is that we do have an opinion on it.
We do have an opinion, yeah,
All right, so
and this is
then I
the
think that-
discussion we've had.
Yeah, so then I think that's, let's respond to her and say, we do have a definite opinion that there should be something, it should be reviewed,
So are you writing that?
no?
She didn't send the email to me, so I can't reply to it.
But we can forward it to you.
I think that would be a violation of her trust
Of
of
the
you.
trust that she expressed.
The trust that she expresses to the chair and the vice chair.
Okay, right now in our current design standards, exempt signs
Oh,
include.
please let's not go down the read all the details, cause we spent so much time in our
Sorry?
draft. Okay,
My
motion
brain
to
is
adjourn?
turning off.
I move to
Okay.
adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
10:40.
That's really short meeting.